Chapter 76. Asgard Holy City. A large number of giants of Jotunheim are attacking under the leadership of Lauf, the leader of giants of Jotunheim. Lauf has only one purpose, to kill Odin while he is sleeping. Eliminate this enemy forever. Originally, in Loki's plan, he would lead off to sneak into the palace through a secret passage, and wait for Lauf to kill him with the eternal spear just before he starts, and become Asgard's savior. Unfortunately, all these plans were disrupted by Luo Bing, who spoiled the situation. Loki didn't have time to plan so much, and the restored Thor was already on him. The two brothers fought an infighting in front of the enemy. Loki is not as strong as Thor at all, but with Odin's spear of eternity in his hand, coupled with his magic, he can also fight back and forth with Thor. Charge! The 3-meter-high Lauf gave another attack order, and the giants of Jotunheim charged again. Asgard had only 10,000 soldiers, 7 or 80, and the giants of Jotunheim had 100,000 troops. With such unequal numbers, the Asgard warriors fought for hours, losing their first line of defense. Frigga holds a pocket dagger, constantly casting healing magic. She stood frowning on the palace's watchtower. Looking at the giants of Jotunheim in the distance and the two sons who kept fighting sounds in the distance, I felt a little nervous. Now that the father of God Odin is asleep and the two princes are in a tussle, Frigga, the mother of the gods, is the spiritual backbone of all Asgard warriors. In the long history, Asgard has never been defeated in the 9 realms. After so many years, the 9 realms are peaceful, Asgard is isolated from the world, and the soldiers are not as powerful as before. The invincible goddess of war also left one by one. Odin spent a lot of divine power in order to seal the eldest daughter Hela, and now Asgard is not as beautiful as it used to be. It can be said that Asgard without Odin is a complete empty shell. No successor. That's why, Odin desperately wanted a king who would stand up and succeed him in protecting Asgard. However, his actions led to Loki and Thor's infighting, and things started to get out of hand. As the father of God, Odin may not even know how to raise his own children. Maybe his training style is more unique? Attack! Frigga commanded the soldiers to defend and counterattack. The ice giant is 3 meters tall and has a burly stature, but in terms of combat power, although Asgard's soldiers are not as good as before, they are still powerful. The swords collided, and the guardian chariot of the holy city released one after another of bright lasers, which firmly resisted the crazy offensive of the giants of Jotunheim. Hiss! The icy cold air spread, and many Asgard warriors were frozen into ice cubes by the frost. Frigga looked anxious in her eyes, but she didn't show it. She can't fall at the moment yet. She tried her best to release healing magic and dispel frost, but her power at the moment was no longer optimistic. Instant! A shadow flashed, appeared above the two armies, and landed on the holy city wall. Hey guys, stop and put down your knives and swords, Luo Bing waved at the city wall. No one pays attention to him. Everyone was playing well. Luo Bing frowned, a golden 6-pointed star appeared in his eye socket, and a golden Susa about 30 meters high rose from the sky, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Whether it was the giants of Jotunheim or the Asgard soldiers, they all stopped fighting, retreated to the formation, and looked at the golden giants who suddenly broke into the city wall with piercing eyes. Who are you? Lauf, the leader of the giants of Jotunheim, looked at the city wall with a bad look. For this alien who suddenly entered the battlefield, his attitude was not friendly. Frigga also looked over cautiously, not knowing whether the visitor was an enemy or a friend. Hey, don't be nervous, everyone, I'm just here to test my new skills. By the way, let me ask, who is the strongest here? Luo Bing looked around, glanced at the soldiers on both sides, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Humph, what need to ask? The warriors of the Frost clan are all strong. As for you, the brat who came out of nowhere, get out of the battlefield of the giants of Jotunheim warriors immediately. Lauf is very proud, for Luo Bing's the question feels very funny. Oh! Luo Bing raised his eyebrows. I don't believe it, but it doesn't matter, just check it out, Luo Bing said. The original golden hexagram kaleidoscope was even more bizarre. A strange energy was transmitted to his pupils. Is the powerhouse identification technique still the pupil technique? Luo Bing was very surprised. The expert identification technique was automatically attached to his eyes. As long as his mind moved, this skill would be activated. So, Luo Bing turned his head to look at the giants of Jotunheim. The 6-pointed star riding wheel was slightly rotating and brewing. What is he doing? All the giants of Jotunheim looked at the wall curiously. In fact, one of Asgard's people also looked over, but due to the angle of view, none of the Asgard soldiers could look directly into Luo Bing's eyes. Under everyone's gaze, Luo Bing opened his mouth. What is filial piety? What is love? Feel the greatness of mother's love. Swish! A beam of light quickly shot out of Luo Bing's eye socket, splitting into countless tiny rays, and finally hit the lower abdomen of everyone who saw his eyes. What kind of attack is this? Lauf frowned, but before he could think about it, his stomach swelled quickly. Not just him, but everyone who was hit by the light. At the moment, Luo Bing got another message in his mind. Powerhouse appraisal technique, hit by pregnancy gaze, effect, 10 seconds of pregnancy experience and half an hour of childbirth experience. This skill cannot be immune, cannot be resisted, cannot be eliminated, cannot be evaded, and can only be resisted. I wish you good luck. P.S. Only those who resist the powerhouse identification technique are the real powerhouses. Walter. Luo Bing's eyes widened. This skill is actually this thing. Is this the legendary staring at who is pregnant? Luo Bing didn't have time to think too much, and the scene was already chaotic. The tall giants of Jotunheim and a few Asgard soldiers all swelled up. 1 lap in a second. 5.0 for 10 seconds. Everyone looked at their stomachs in confusion. Most of the people present were men. They never thought that if they suddenly became pregnant one day, it would be a magical scene. But now, they experience it. 10 seconds later is the birthing experience. Soon, the entire battlefield screamed again and again, like a pig slaughtering scene. Even a man with a strong will, at the moment shed tears. That is a special effect of the powerhouse identification technique, which completely allows people to experience a relative pain level of childbirth with the endurance of ordinary women. Among the Asgard crowd, the 3 Asgard warriors who met Luo Bing and the female god of war Sif were also recruited. This kind of magic, it's amazing. Frigga, the mother of the gods, widened her eyes with envy. Chapter 77. What's going on? Heimdall, who has an all-seeing eye, naturally did not escape being hit by the expert identification technique. This is a bug. Anyone who can look directly into Luo Bing's eyes can be identified by a strong expert no matter where they are. The deep Hamdar couldn't help but shouted. The golden armor on his abdomen bulged into a large bag, and the whole person was sweating profusely, and fell to the ground. It just so happened that at this moment, Loki skipped over from a distance and snatched the golden sword from his hand. It is also the key of Bifrost. What did you do? Damn. Lauf was sweating profusely. The first time in his life the tough leader of giants of Jotunheim had suffered such a fate. This. The Asgard soldiers who didn't get hit were stunned, and the weapons in their hands were almost unsteady. This should be scary too. What is this operation? All of the giants of Jotunheim were knocked down in a second. This is sorcery. 14 Fortunately this thing didn't fall on me. The lucky soldier looked at the wailing comrades beside him, and there was a trace of cold sweat on his forehead. Lauf was about to burst. He felt as if there was life coming out of his stomach, but he didn't have that function at all. What could he do with this? What a giant! Many girl warriors blushed, and resisted letting out a humiliating scream. Pregnancy staring only makes one experience what it feels like to have a baby and give birth, but it doesn't really produce life. Luo Bing didn't know what to do if he did give birth to a child. Is he going to be the father of tens of thousands of little giants of Jotunheim? Think about it all in a cold sweat. Luo Bing shuddered and felt the horror of this skill again. The main sources of his current abilities are the bosses of 2 factions. One is a series of 7 generations of Hokage, which is synonymous with madness and coolness. The other is a series of white predecessors, strange, terrifying, symbols of sorcery. What should we do? Take advantage of this opportunity to kill them. A soldier walked up to Frigga and asked in a low voice, wiping the cold sweat on his forehead. There are still about 60,000 giants of Jotunheim left on the field, but they all lost their ability to fight, laying on the ground and wailing, and even the mentally unstable ones fainted. Frigga frowned. It wasn't Asgard's style to rush to kill. But there were so many giants of Jotunheim soldiers that even a cell full of dominion could not hold it. Kill Lauf, first imprison these giants temporarily, prepare the magic circle, wait for the Father of God to wake up, and then deal with it. Frigga's expression was still calm, and she made a judgment at the moment. The giants of Jotunheim are a race that values kingship. When Lauf, the leader of the giants of Jotunheim, died, all the giants of Jotunheim lost their backbone, and naturally there was no threat. But, are they really pregnant? What if they have a child? Many of us in Asgard were also hit by that strange light. Most of them were men. Do you want to cut your stomach? The soldier wiped his cold sweat again, and asked hesitation. Frigg frowned, she was also very embarrassed. She knows how women give birth to children, but men don't have that function at all. This is how to do? Frigg looked straight at Luo Bing, hesitation for a moment, and walked straight towards the other party. In order to protect the safety of the mother of the gods, the soldiers on the side fought hard to keep up, in fact, their calves were trembling unconsciously. Hello, young warrior. Frigga showed a kind smile, beautiful and dignified, and the aura of the mother of the gods made people look very comfortable, and she couldn't help but want to get close to her and protect her. Hello. Luo Bing was still struggling with everything in front of him, when he saw Frigga come over, put away Suzuo, and jumped off the city wall. Boom! As soon as he landed, the soldier beside him raised his weapon subconsciously. Frigga waved her hand and motioned for everyone to step back, grateful for the warrior who saved Asgard and defeated the army of giants of Jotunheim. Thank you for your help, young warrior. I don't know where you came from, and just what to do with these pregnant people. Will they really give birth to life? Frigga looked at the handsome young man in front of him, and just saw his back from a distance, but when he walked in, he found that this life was very handsome, and he didn't know where he was from. The Protoss. Luo Bing was embarrassed, and somehow he became the hero to save Asgard. He was just experimenting with new skills. My name is Luo Bing, I'm from Earth, and Thor brought me here. Don't worry, they won't have children, it's just an experience. Luo Bing stretched out his right hand. Frigg was stunned for a moment, and he stretched out his right hand with hesitation. There is no handshake etiquette in Asgard. What's more, as the mother of the gods, it would be very rude to contact outsiders. But Frigga did not resist. After all, he just saved Asgard, he is the hero of Asgard. Are you Thor's friend? Frigg asked curiously. Actually, a friend. Luo Bing hesitation, it seems a little difficult to say that he is a creditor in front of other people's mothers. Thor is really lucky to have a friend like you. You're talking about Midgard, right? Excuse me, are you the sorcerer supreme who protects the earth? Frigg looked at Luo Bing and asked her own question. With such a powerful magic, in Frigga's view, he must be the current sorcerer supreme. 780 God Realm actually had contact with sorcerer supreme. In fact, Odin and a certain legendary sorcerer supreme are still friends. Hey? I'm not. Luo Bing frowned in confusion. He has never heard of the character sorcerer supreme. Is there still a magician on earth? He has never seen it. Hey? Frigg frowned, not quite understanding. If it wasn't for sorcerer supreme, how could this young man possess such great magical powers that he could knock out tens of thousands of soldiers at the same time? And the space magic attainment he just came here is also very high. At least Frigga doesn't know this kind of high-level space magic. The two talked constantly, and all the Asgard soldiers relaxed and began to celebrate the victory of the Great War. Just at the moment, a loud bang came from a distance. The person he was with shook his head and looked over. That was Bifrost's direction, and the sound just now came from above Bifrost. Odin suddenly woke up from his slumber, rolled up his divine power, and flew towards Bifrost with unparalleled speed. The King of God has awakened. The Father of God is awakened. Everyone cheered. Roar up. Frigga was also delighted, but she was still a little worried, not knowing what her husband would do with his youngest son, Loki. Luo Bing frowned, his feeling told him that something bad seemed to happen. Chapter 78. That night, Luo Bing was arranged to live in a luxurious palace. Asgard's hospitality was very considerate. Not only did he prepare new clothes for Luo Bing, but the palace was also equipped with a small hot spring. He also brought two beautiful girls with exquisite appearance to bathe and change Luo Bing's clothes. Luo Bing wasn't used to this, although it seemed normal to Asgard's people. A hero should be treated like a hero. Their thinking was unexpectedly feudal, and the hierarchy was very clear. Frigga arranged all this thoughtfully, but unfortunately Luo Bing refused. He waved his hand and let the two overwhelmed young girls leave the room, lie down in the hot spring and close their eyes. He has great respect for his future wife, although he does not know where she is now. In the evening, Odin and Frigga had a long chat. The destruction of Bifrost is a trivial matter. In Frigga's view, her youngest son Loki, who has been raised for thousands of years, fell into the abyss. Although Loki is not her own child, in these long years, she has long regarded it as her own, and her care for her is not behind Thor. Even because of Loki's mischief, Frigga cared more about the child who would never grow up. The two then chatted about Luo Bing. Thor also told his father and mother exactly what happened on Earth. I'm very worried about Thor, he hasn't grown up enough to satisfy me. Odin looked into the distance, his eyes a little deep. He's still young, we need to be more patient, Frigg comforted. Odin shook his head and looked at his partner, revealing an astonishing fact. I'm running out of time, and Ragnarok has an omen, Odin said. How could this be? Frigga covered her mouth in surprise, with tears in her eyes. Actually, I've thought about that scene for a long time, but unfortunately, Thor can't shoulder that responsibility now, Odin said, showing a slight smile. He had already looked down on life and death, but he couldn't let go of Asgard. After I die, Hela will get out of hell. Maybe this is the retribution for the mistakes I made when I was young. Brothers and legs cannibalize each other, father and daughter are against each other. At that time, according to Hela's character, in order to get revenge on me, she desperate to destroy Asgard. Odin took a deep roar inhalation, the old man's eyes were very dull. How has she been? Frigg asked boldly. Odin has never allowed her to visit his daughter, nor tell him anything about Hela. She was getting more and more mad. I was wrong, I thought that being in captivity would make her realize her mistake, but I didn't expect her to get worse, Odin said, with a little more tenderness in his words. The goddess of death Hela, Odin's eldest daughter, accompanied Odin to conquer the 9 realms, causing countless countries to fall. Odin realized his mistake and stopped the tyranny of continuing to fight. But Hela has been affected by the environment since childhood, and her ambition has grown stronger and stronger. She wants to unify the 9 realms, even occupy the deeper universe, and become the queen of the entire universe. There were many disputes between father and daughter. Under Hela's continued tyranny and cruelty, Odin reluctantly imprisoned his eldest daughter in Hel. Since then, the female war gods who belonged to the Hela unit have left one by one, and Asgard has become a pampered wasteland. Odin is not pure good, definitely not pure evil. No one is always good, and no one is pure evil. Odin's youthful mistakes were punished, and at the moment Asgard's status quo was his greatest revenge. I want to see her, please. Frigg wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. After losing her youngest son, Loki, she missed Hela, who called herself mother, even more. Although she was brutal and bloody, she made many mistakes. But as a mother, I always subconsciously forget these things, and plead for Hela again and again. Love is selfish. Maternal love is selfish. No, I won't allow it, she'll hurt you. Odin shook his head, rejecting Frigga's request. She won't, I just want to see her once, even if I see her from a distance, I want to talk to her, she's been locked up in hell where there is no light for thousands of years. Thousands of years. You have the heart to treat her like this. Frigg glared at Odin, even though she knew it was useless, she said it anyway. I'm probably not a good father, Odin sighed, looking much older. Frigga was silent. After a long time, she raised her head. How do you feel about that young man? Frigg asked suddenly, wiping away her tears. I can't see his fate, he's a variable, and the future universe will change for him, Odin said. Is he really like what you said? Frigg was slightly surprised. She was very surprised that Odin could have such an evaluation, she had never heard Odin praise a person so much. I can't see his future, and I can't see his past, he is like a key, I don't know which door he will open in the future, and what will be the result, but whatever the outcome, it's his choice, but this choice will affect the entire universe. Odin glanced at the starry sky on the other side, and his eyes were a little confused. Frigga lowered her head, as if thinking about something. Before long, she looked up, her eyes glowing. You said, what would happen if Hela betrothed to him? Odin was stunned, and the temple fell into deadly silence. Maybe try? Odin looked at the starry sky in confusion. He owed too much to his daughter. The young man who came to God's domain by accident was a good candidate, and he was quite good looking. It is the hero who saved Asgard, and his character is reliable. Maybe his appearance can change Hela's fate? Can he change the fate of the entire, Zhao Qian's, Asgard? He might not be able to. But if anyone can do it, it must be him. Frigga's words awakened Odin. Many times women are more delicate than men when they think about things. Odin rolled his eyes and glanced at Frigga who was beside him. An idea spread in his mind. Once the seed of thought is planted, the thought quickly becomes unstoppable and grows stronger. Luo Bing woke up in the morning with bad news. Bifrost is destroyed, he can't get back to Earth with this thing. If using a spaceship, he would be in space for at least a few decades. But, fortunately, Odin seems to have other ways to get him back to Earth, but this method seems a little dangerous and not very reliable. He's going through the interspace between Asgard and Earth. Hell. Chapter 79. Luo Bing was a little stunned when he heard the news. The legendary hell actually exists? What is it like inside? If there are all hells, is there also a cycle of life and death? And you are about to go to hell? Thor, who was delivering the message, patted Luo Bing's shoulder hard. Hey, buddy, I know what you did yesterday. Can't believe how you did it, you saved the whole Asgard. Fortunately I wasn't there at the time, otherwise I couldn't believe what it was like to have a big belly. Thor is an optimist, and quickly recovers from the grief that Loki is dead. But when no one was there, the scene from last night would still appear in his head. The king appeared in time to catch him. And his other arm was tightly grasped by Loki. But, after seeing the disappointment in his father's eyes, Loki decisively released his arm and fell into the void. Thor with a big belly. Luo Bing tried to imagine that kind of picture in his mind, inexplicably paired him with the scene of beer and eating potato chips, shook his head, and felt a chill. Let's go, you're a hero, the father decided to open the Asgard treasure to you, and you can even take one of his private collections with you, Thor said with a grin. Reward? That's your debt to me. Luo Bing rolled his eyes. You can say anything, anyway, you will be my Thor's brother from now on. Thor laughed, patted his chest. Luo Bing had a black line on his face. I admire your beard, he said. Why? Thor asked suspiciously. Such a slender beard stubbornly emerged from your thick skin on the city wall, do you think I should admire it? Luo Bing asked back. Thor stroked his beard and thought. At first he didn't understand the meaning of this sentence, but then he thought about it carefully. Isn't that saying that he is thick-skinned? After that, Thor looked at Luo Bing with a bit of resentment. Don't hit me like that even if you don't want to be a brother. This is too frustrating. However, Thor quickly put this matter out of the sky, and introduced Luo Bing to the nearby buildings and scenery along the way, so he came all the way to the temple. After arriving at the temple, Thor was called away by his mother Frigga and pulled aside to say something. Thor's expression became more and more astonished, and in the end he was even stunned in place. Fortunately, Frigga blocked his mouth in time, otherwise he could have cried out on the spot. You're here, young man. Odin looked at the handsome young man in front of him, and his heart became more and more satisfied. Mr. Odin, what did you say about going to hell and returning to Earth? Luo Bing was more polite to the elderly. What's more, I don't know how many years this old man has lived. No hurry, I'll tell you in detail later. You saved Asgard when I was sleeping. As a hero of Asgard, you should be rewarded. The treasure house of God's domain will be opened to you. Come with me, Odin said, walking slowly ahead to lead the way. Luo Bing was a little puzzled, but when he heard about the treasure house, he immediately forgot about hell and followed Odin to the depths of the temple. I don't know how many secret passages have been passed through, and how many organs have been opened. Asgard's treasure trove finally appeared in front of Luo Bing. What caught the eye was the mountain of gems, gold coins, necklaces, and jewelry. The bright golden light almost blinded Luo Bing's eyes. The colorful gems were embedded in the gold coins, and there were also hundreds of delicate-looking long swords. It seems to have the scale of the dragon's treasure in the comics. No. This is definitely much larger than the scale of the dragon's treasure in the comics. These are just vulgar rubbish, useless, but Frigga likes these shiny things, and I'm also very annoyed. This thing takes up too much space. Odin sighed, with a helpless expression on his face. Gudong. Buffa, Luo Bing swallowed. Behold. See if this is human words. It seems that people are not people at all. Odin originally planned to take Luo Bing directly to the next floor, but suddenly his eyes lit up and he thought of something and stopped. By the way, can you take some of these gems and jewelry? Do you have a girlfriend? Odin asked with a kind smile. No. Luo Bing shook his head. He was only 16 years old, only 17 during Hyuxia New Year, and has no plans to fall in love yet. That's great. Odin looked surprised. Ah. Luo Bing looked at the old man beside him speechlessly with a black line on his face. What do you mean, how do you speak? Cough cough. I mean that's a pity, there are not many outstanding young people like you. As someone who has come here, let me remind you that to people like us, you must be careful in choosing a partner, after all, we have a long life expectancy. How many hails can you live? Human life on earth is only 100 years. If you choose recklessly, you will only get sadness and sadness after 100 years, so you must choose someone who can be with you for a long time, said Odin. Luo Bing thought for a while and nodded. It was indeed a problem, but he didn't think too much about it, there was always a solution to a problem. Not to mention 100 years, Luo Bing can't believe what he will look like in a year, just the progress of one ability per day, what kind of ghost he will become by then. I'll ask Frigga to bring you a box and carry some jewels, Odin said, and he was about to call Frigga with the divine power roar. No need. Luo Bing waved his hand, and the entrance to the Shinwei space opened on one side. Just move it in. Luo Bing's mouth rose, he liked the feeling of stuffing things the most. I didn't expect. Your space magic is so powerful that you have your own small space. Odin glanced at Luo Bing in surprise, feeling even more satisfied with this future son-in-law. Then I'll take it. Luo Bing didn't explain his ability, and looked at Odin with a smile. I feel that this old man is getting more and more pleasing to the eye. Take more, Odin laughed. I'll tell you some more secrets, women like this stuff, even the most brutal women like this stuff, if you meet a woman stronger than you in the future, don't think about anything, just throw jewelry. Odin mysterious said. Luo Bing is ashamed. Why is this old man talking so strangely? That's right, is that what he did when he was young? Odin doesn't know that his painstaking efforts have been misunderstood. He is now trying his best to find a way to match Luo Bing and his eldest daughter Hela. Definitely not a requirement. As a father, he did everything he could, and even played a little bit of prudence. As for the final result, it depends on the fate of the two children. Chapter 80. Shinwei space devoured the treasure house in front of him, and Xiao Shan began to lose weight at a speed visible to the naked eye. Luo Bing was not too embarrassed to take too much, but when he saw that he was about to close his hands in time, the mountain-like dragon treasure shrunk by half. But Odin didn't mind at all, he had absolutely no interest in these mundane things. This is all because of Frigga's favorite collection, and it just looks good. The most precious thing Odin has collected over the years is the artifact he has collected over the years, each of which is rare and rare, if calculated according to game equipment, at least every piece is top-level epic equipment. Odin waved his hand, and the frescoes on the ceiling above his head seemed to come alive, followed by a tremor, and the floors of the entire palace began to descend. This was probably the Divine Realm version of the elevator. The disc under his feet gradually stopped, Odin stepped off the disc, waved his hand again, and the dark basement was instantly lit up with standing lights, and the river lit up. These are all my treasures, I can take them wherever I like. Odin looked at Luo Bing with a kind smile on his face. If these things are given to others, he is definitely not so generous. But when he thought that the other party might become his son-in-law, the more the father-in-law looked at the son-in-law, the more joyful he became, and he could not wait to give him all the good things. Who let his son not live up to his expectations? He can't use these things. What is this? Luo Bing was immediately attracted by the golden gloves in front of him. I don't know what material the glove is made of. It is inlaid with 6 gems of different colors, and it looks very powerful. Ahem. Odin was a little embarrassed. There was a legend in the universe that as long as you can gather 6 infinite gems and put them on a special glove, then Odin turned to look at Luo Bing and snapped his fingers. With just a small snap of your fingers, life in the entire universe will perish. Perhaps, you can overthrow this universe and create a new one. Odin smiled mysteriously. He also pursued the whole dream when he was young, but then gave up for some reason. So, the legend is false, this thing is not that powerful at all. Luo Bing asked his question curiously. If it was what Odin said, he would have been invincible, and the gloves wouldn't be stored here. The legend is true, and the gloves are also true, but the infinite gems above are fake, ha ha ha, this is just a souvenir I made for me by the dwarf clan. Odin smiled awkwardly. When he was young, he asked the dwarfs to make him this pair of gloves that could carry the power of gems. Too bad he only found one tesseract in the end. But because of Tesseract, Odin created the magical artifact, Bifrost. It's amazing. Luo Bing looked at the infinity gauntlet and touched his chin. The scene Odin described to him was too grand, which had to make Luo Bing curious about infinite gems. Don't think about that, infinite gems are too rare. Only 3 of the 6 infinite gems have been found now. Odin shook his head. I got one of them, one was snatched by Thanos, and one was on the Sorcerer Supreme on modern Earth. Oh, speaking of which, now you have exactly 2 on Earth, one is the Tesseract you found that was originally mine, and the other is the Eye of Agamotto of Sorcerer Supreme. Odin suddenly remembered something and touched his white beard. Said, Tesseract? I know that thing. Luo Bing took a long breath. At one point he wanted to take that thing home for lighting. At the moment is the S.H.I.E.L.D secret warehouse on Earth. Who is Thanos? Who is Sorcerer Supreme? I heard about it from Ms. Frigga yesterday. Luo Bing asked curiously again. A man who wants to be the overlord of the universe just like me, is a rising star, but his methods are more cruel. No matter which planet he goes to, he will kill half and keep half. His strength is comparable to that of the young me. But now I'm old. Odin shook his head. As for the Sorcerer Supreme, he has actually been living on Earth, responsible for maintaining the magical world of your Earth and preventing the invasion of the Dark Dimension. I used to be friends with several Sorcerer Supremes, Odin said, suddenly walking towards an artifact. This is the Eye of the Sorcerer, an artifact used by the Sorcerer Supreme to detect the future and dispel all illusions and false darkness. It's a good thing, but it's been idle since the more powerful Eye of Agamotto flowers 0. It was later collected by me, Odin said, showing off his treasure. He introduced the Eye of the Sorcerer, and came to the raging flames covered by a tray. This is the Eternal Fire. The Eternal Fire is the artifact of the Flame Giant Surti, which I took back from the Flame Giant when I fought in the 9 realms. The crown of Flame Giant and the Eternal Fire will become as huge as a mountain when they contact him, and it will be useless when dealing with him. Gave me a lot of trouble. Odin introduced his artifact one by one, each of which made Luo Bing very excited. However, since he can only choose one, it must be carefully considered. Casket of Ancient Winters, an artifact of Giants of Jotunheim. This thing once triggered the Earth's Ice Age, and you must know what happened later. Odin didn't explain much. 0 Casket of Ancient Winters also appeared on the battlefield yesterday. This is the Ego Motorcycle Ball, and it is also a treasure handed down from generation to generation by Sorcerer Supreme. It can detect the source of danger and magic in the universe in advance. It is a very good thing. Odin touched the crystal ball-like thing, very is like. Several artifacts from Sorcerer Supreme. Luo Bing was surprised. This old man won't loot the Sorcerer Supreme. The last thing, this thing is called the Life Card. It comes from the Atlantis continent, a civilization that has disappeared from the Earth. It is engraved with the life equation of biological evolution. According to the evolution equation of the Life Card, any user can evolve into the highest level of life with infinite wisdom and super combat power. But I don't even know the text on it. The Atlantis civilization is an advanced civilization. They have their own language inheritance. It's a pity that they disappeared on the Earth. Odin shook his head. Those are the rest of his treasures. There used to be many, unfortunately either destroyed in battle or a one-off artifact. Or be rewarded. In short, the dozen artifacts in this room were his last possessions, and they were very poor, too poor. If Luo Bing knew Odin's heart, he would definitely vomit blood in depression. You are all poor, so what am I? Which one do you want? Odin asked, looking at Luo Bing. Chapter 81. Which one do you want? Luo Bing frowned. Everything here looks good. How to choose this? A little tangled, Luo Bing's eyes constantly glanced at these treasures. He didn't need the Warlock's Eye. He could also dream and predict the future. The Egmoto Ball seemed to be exclusively for magicians, and he was not a magician, so he didn't need it. The Unquenchable Fire is kind of interesting. But Luo Bing has Amaterasu's flame, and its attributes are immortal, so there is a conflict between the two. As for Casket of Ancient Winters, it's a good artifact, it's powerful, but Luo Bing didn't choose it in the end. Luo Bing put his eyes on the life card. This is the relic of the Atlantis civilization, and this thing feels very mysterious. That's it, Luo Bing said, pointing to the life card in front of him. 780's Odin nodded. He was not too surprised. Although the life card didn't look like an artifact, its origin was so mysterious that even he didn't understand it. Odin took off the life card and handed it to Luo Bing. It was a bronze-colored brand with strange characters engraved on it. Other than that, there was nothing special about it, as if this thing was an antique and only had collectible value. Luo Bing didn't study it on the spot, he turned it upside down in his hand, feeling the heavy weight, and then put it into the Shinwei space. Come with me, I'll talk to you about hell. Odin coughed lightly, finally bringing up the point. Where is hell? Luo Bing first asked his own question. That's a good question. Odin stroked his beard. If it's someone else, I can't explain it very well, but you have a small space yourself, so it should be understandable. Hell is not in this world, it's like a mezzanine space, but in fact, hell is in the mezzanine space between Asgard and Earth, Odin said. That is to say, hell is a transit station. I will send you in from here. With your space magic skills, you can find a weaker space point in hell, and you can go back to Earth through it. Odin explained. Luo Bing nodded and frowned. What if I can't find the node linking the Earth, or if I can't break that node? I'll be stuck in hell for the rest of my life. That's not true. If you really can't find it, you can try to call me, roar loudly, and I'll take you over. We'll be thinking of other ways then. Odin shrugged helplessly. Okay then. Luo Bing took a long breath, and a 3D roadmap appeared in his mind. Let's eat first, Asgard's wine is very delicious. Odin smiled and touched his eyes covered with a blindfold. No, I brought a lot of wine. Luo Bing shook his head. Asgard's meal he had tasted last night, very natural, very luxurious, just no seasoning, all authentic. He is not used to eating. Now that he was desperate to go home, he politely resolved it. Okay then, come with me, Odin said, leading the way. The two came to a place similar to an altar, and Frigga and Thor were also waiting here. Thor looked straight at Luo Bing, wanting to say something but didn't know how to say it. Frigga on the side. He reached Later's arm, which made the big man quiet. When I release my divine power later, a hole will be torn out in front of you as soon as the entrance of the cave appears. You must hurry in, you must hurry, and you can't hesitation, Odin warned. Okay. Luo Bing nodded, expressing his understanding. Let's start then. Odin took a deep breath and looked at Frigga. Frigg nodded at Odin. Then, the power of Odin spread, the clouds rolled in the sky, and a 12-level gale suddenly blew. The inhabitants of Asgard all turned to look up at the sky, filled with awe. Zitsizi. A space crack slowly opened not far from Luo Bing. Behind the crack is endless silence, without a trace of light. Swish. Before waiting for the hole to expand, Luo Bing teleported directly over. Odin waved his hand, and a large amount of divine power was involved, and the crack became tight again. Roar! Odin gasped, he couldn't do this the same way now. So old, so dark. Total darkness. This is Luo Bing's first thought. There is no light in hell, even if it is pitch black, you can't see your fingers when you reach out. Riding round eyes. A touch of blood red slowly climbed up Luo Bing's pupils, he calmed down and patiently looked at the blood-red world around him. There is something similar to cotton wool floating in the air here, but it is illusory and cannot be grasped at all. One by one, like the elves in the dark night, they swim around in the air. This is hell. Luo Bing looked around curiously. Here is not what he imagined, there is no light, no underworld, and nothing. This is a mezzanine space between Asgard and Earth. But in this hell it is not without any creatures. Luo Bing frowned, feeling that there were more than a dozen pairs of eyes staring at him. Beast's instinct was activated instantly, jumped directly into the air, and summoned a support point with Rashomon under his feet. Buzz buzz. One by one black shadows flashed at Luo Bing's place, his body was pitch black, only two eyes were bright. The head and body are unruly squares, and I don't know what kind of creature it is, but the body structure is the same as that of a human being, with hands and feet. But they were able to jump through space with ease. These things, curious life structures, are simply 5.0 elements of space in the whole body. Luo Bing was slightly surprised. In his spatial perception, the spatial nodes on these creatures are very bright. Similar to the cube of Luo Bing Shinwei space, but a little weaker than that. It seems that they only move in space on the ground, which is not as exaggerated as Luo Bing imagined. After failing to find Luo Bing, they walked out one by one buzzing. How do I find the space node leading to Earth? Luo Bing looked around. Fell to the ground. Those Endermen are going away temporarily, if it's not necessary, Luo Bing doesn't want to waste his energy here. The temperature in hell is very cold and makes people feel a little uncomfortable. Let's have a fire. Luo Bing casually started a fire on the ground, and the fuel was the wooden door he summoned. In the darkness, a pair of eyes stared at Luo Bing. Chapter 82. Hell is a dead space, but fortunately there is oxygen here. Like Shinwei space, Luo Bing couldn't feel the change of time when he was here, but the time here was still running, but there were no reference objects around him for him to refer to. But that's not a big deal. Luo Bing took out his mobile phone from his pocket. The time hand was 10:20 am. The phone is still running normally, and the battery inside is still sufficient. This is a new product that Shi Stark handed him. It can stand by for a month normally and can also be charged by solar energy. But there is no sun here. What a ghost place. It seems that I have to find the space node leading to the Earth as soon as possible. Luo Bing stretched and sat cross-legged on the ground, the spatial perception spread out. Who? Luo Bing frowned, immediately stood up from the ground, and looked in one direction with stern eyes. Just now, he felt the existence of people around him. Giggle, I didn't expect that. Were you also exiled by Odin? So, what have you done? Killed a few planets? Massacred most of the universe? A beautiful woman walked out of the dark corner. She seemed to be in a state of distress, her hair was draped over her shoulders, a little messy, her eyes were sharp, she was lazy, but she did not lose the demeanor of a queen. Exile. Luo Bing frowned, not quite understanding what she meant. However, since there are still people here, this makes Luo Bing feel very surprised. From what she meant, she seemed to be exiled by Odin. I'm just passing by. Luo Bing didn't explain much. He is still wearing Asgard-style clothes. The other party judged that he had contact with Odin based on this. Passing by? Giggling, Hela sneered. You were deceived by that old man. If you go to hell, don't even think about going out. Where do you think this place is? As long as the old man doesn't die, we all have to be trapped here, that's the truth, little brother, Hela said, waving her hand, floating in the sky fighting plankton blooming brightly. It lights up the world around it like a starry sky in a dark night. Such beauty can only be seen in hell. Oh, Luo Bing ignored it. Odin didn't deceive him, he was very clear about this. Because his beast instinct never had a warning when facing Odin, but after meeting this woman, he started to move. This woman is dangerous. Arguably one of the most powerful unknown beings Luo Bing has ever encountered. The bright starry sky is dotted with white bones, beautiful and dangerous, exuding a strange light. You don't look bad, Giggle. Hela smiled and licked the corner of her mouth. A woman who has been alone for more than 2,000 years is not that easy to mess with. She has only one life here, and ordinary people have long since collapsed. Thank you for the compliment, please don't disturb me if it's all right. Luo Bing glanced at the woman in front of him, and was not very interested in this kind of queen. Giggle. Hela smiled charmingly and looked at the man in front of her with interest. She had never seen such a handsome man before when she fought in the 9 realms. To be a good loneliness vent. Hela never thought about men and women, but in the 2,000 years in hell, she was used to being alone, and she didn't have much interest in conquering the universe. There is a little interest in the things of men and women who have never been in contact. Her only goal now is to get out alive, destroy everything Odin holds dear, and become the new queen of Asgard. I'm afraid you haven't figured it out, man, this is my place now. Kneel down and lick your concubine's toes, maybe I can spare your life. Hela looked at the man's handsome face recklessly, and felt a little restless in her heart. Oh! Luo Bing smiled unexpectedly. This is not the first time someone has been so arrogant, but it is the first time for a woman. No matter how stupid and arrogant a woman is, she will resolutely put down her air after seeing her, thinking of going to have a good relationship with him. It's a big breath, and immediately disappear from my eyes, otherwise, you will get pregnant. Luo Bing's mouth rose, his eyes were very playful. Well, that concubine wants to have a good experience. Hela licked the corner of her mouth, getting even more excited, and her body began to heat up slightly. She's going to turn this handsome guy into a prisoner in his hell. The days to come may not be so boring. The light golden light hit Hela's stomach, she didn't resist, and she didn't have time to resist. The light of pregnancy gazes extremely fast, basically reaching the speed of light. What? Hela frowned. Then, she saw that her belly started to grow in circles. What have you done to me? Ah! Hela looked at the man in front of her angrily, feeling that new life was brewing in her stomach. How can that be? What the hell did this man do? 10 seconds later, Hella slumped to the ground frowning, enduring the pain of childbirth. However, her willpower was extremely strong, and she suppressed herself without making any shameful screams. It's just that the sweat dripping down from her forehead betrayed her, and it could be seen that she was very uncomfortable. He. Luo Bing walked in front of Hella. He took off his shoes and threw them aside, handing over his feet. Is that what you mean? Fun. Hella was ashamed and angry, with 780 anger burning in her eyes. She tried her best to avoid the feet of the man in front of her, although the feet of the man were beautiful and had a faint fragrance on them. But apparently Hella wouldn't accept it all. She has never suffered such humiliation in her life, and what worries her more is her body. If she does give birth to a child, what should she do? She had absolutely no intention of becoming a mother. There is no experience as a mother at all. Hella used divine power in her hands, trying to destroy the life in her body through her stomach, but it was in vain. Pregnancy gaze doesn't really give birth to life, it's just an experience. It's really cruel. Luo Bing shook his head and withdrew his feet, no longer interested in teasing her. He returned to the fire, closed his eyes, and spread his spatial perception, experiencing the difference of every inch of spatial node. 30 minutes passed quickly. The effect of the pregnancy stare was gone, and Hella's tortured body lost her strength. She raised her head and glanced at the quiet man beside the fire in the distance. While her heart was full of resentment, she also had a hint of surprise. Hella swore that only the man who conquered her was qualified to marry her. But she was so powerful that all men looked disgusting to her like shit on the ground. But the one in front of me. It seemed to upend her view of men. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 83. Luo Bing opened his eyes. He has a new understanding of his strongman identification technique. In terms of fighting alone, Luo Bing may not be able to hurt the woman in front of him. However, the powerhouse identification technique is too overbearing, directly ignoring any defenses and attacking the fragile interior from the human body. Basically, no one is immune to his ability. This is total sorcery. Comfortable? Do you want to do it again? Luo Bing squinted at Hella, who was climbing up from the ground, raised his eyebrows and smiled. Hella was pale. The originally messy hair became even more messy. The experience just now was unpleasant, and she was afraid that she would have a psychological shadow on giving birth to a baby in her life. Let's see, man. Hella didn't dare to step forward, put a harsh word, and retreated into the shadows. Luo Bing shrugged. He had already reviewed 700 space nodes, most of which lead to the void, and one of them was connected to the Asgard god realm. At this rate, given him some time, he can find his way back to Earth. Luo Bing got up, changed the area, lit the fire again, sat up cross-legged, and closed his eyes to perceive the space nodes around him. Hey! Luo Bing frowned and opened his eyes. In his perception, a large number of spatial elements are converging towards him. Buzz. The black Enderman who made a strange cry appeared again. But this time it's not just a dozen. A pair of commanding eyes flashed on the densely packed road. Giggle. This is a unique creature in hell, how do you deal with it? Hella hid in the darkness, and the Enderman was brought in by her, just to watch Luo Bing make a fool of himself. But don't be touched by their little fists, that attack can tear space. If you don't want your body and limbs to be separated, it's still valid to kneel down and beg me now. Hella was hidden in the darkness, but her words spread around with special power. You haven't been taught enough. Don't hide, come and fight me head on. I'm content with you. Luo Bing frowned as he looked at the Endermen who were constantly surrounding him, jumped into the air, and summoned a glass door underground. Hella is not stupid. It was obvious that there was something wrong with the man's eyes, and when no solution was found, she would not show up rashly. I advise you not to hide in the sky, that's not a good place. Hella giggled, her voice full of laziness and charm. Luo Bing frowned, and soon, he also felt that a large space element was galloping towards this side. Roar! The jet black Ender Dragon spewed flames and attacked Luo Bing fiercely. The Ender Dragon's body was unusually huge, like a small mountain. The flames he spewed out were indistinguishable from enemy and foe. After shattering the glass door where Luo Bing was, it directly ignited the ground below. Many Endermen let out strange screams, and their bodies were burned by flames. It slowly dissipated with a scream, and turned into an illusory catkin-like object in the dark night, becoming a part of this space. So this is how this thing came. Luo Bing flashed to another ground, looking at the scene in front of him. The Ender and Ender Dragon are unique products of Hell. If classified, they should belong to a kind of elemental life. It is precisely because of them that this huge interlayer space of Hell is formed. Roar! The Ender Dragon roared, and the fiery flames continued to attack Luo Bing constantly. Endless Luo Bing dodged and left again. These guys are stupid and cute, they don't have any intelligence quotient, they act purely by instinct, but there are too many. Luo Bing can clearly feel that there are 3 or 5 Ender Dragons flying towards here in the distance. The shape of the Ender Dragon is more like the previous pterosaurs on the Earth, about 100 meters tall, covering the sky and the sun. The flame column it spewed out was 10 meters in diameter, and the flame temperature was so high that Luo Bing could feel the scorching heat on his skin from a distance. If you are hit by that flame pillar, it may be very uncomfortable. It's useless for you to hide all the time. There will be more and more of these things. To be honest, I don't know how many Ender Dragons are in this hell. Please, as long as you ask me, I'll save you. Oh, giggling. Hella's charming voice constantly echoes across the sky. Looks like you want to eat my feet again, Luo Bing sneered. He is not hiding, so hiding is not a solution at all, he has no time to find the space node leading to the Earth. Boom! The 30-meter-high golden giant enveloped his body. Luo Bing floated in Susanoo's chest, grasped in the void, and the golden giant sword appeared in the right hand of the golden Susan. The inextinguishable black flame covered the golden giant's sword, emitting a strange light. Oh! Hella watched this scene with interest, and the interest in her heart became even stronger. Shu Luo Bing met him head-on, facing the 100-meter behemoth. The knife fell from his hand, and the head of an Ender Dragon was directly cut off by him. Bang! The Ender Dragon's body fell to the ground, and did not collapse and dissipate in the void. Surprisingly, this guy seems to be semi-solid, with flesh and ribs inside, and the white bones on the ground just now may be left by other Ender Dragons. Hella looked at this scene from a distance and hummed dissatisfiedly. This man is more powerful than he imagined, it seems that he is not only the strange light emitted by his eyes. But Hella was even more satisfied, admiring the man's heroic appearance like a god of war with interest. Draw the knife. With a quick knife, the corpse of the Ender Dragon fell from the sky. The golden giant sword with the blessing of Amaterasu is more powerful and invincible. Soon, the Ender Dragon was not approaching, and they seemed to be afraid. The Endermen on the ground receded with a buzzing sound, and they seemed to be afraid of Luo Bing, and their instinct prompted them to make subconscious actions. Luo Bing stopped, his eyes swept around and frowned. He didn't find Hella's figure, this woman's secret methods are very powerful, after all, she is completely familiar with the surrounding environment. Luo Bing fell to the ground, and the golden Susa dissipated. He looked at the huge corpse of the Ender, Zhao Qian's, dragon, picked up an exquisite long sword from the Shinwei space, and cut its flesh and blood. It seems to be edible. It seems that you don't have to worry about food. Luo Bing nodded, cut off a piece of lean meat from his thigh, and put it into the fire to grill. It seemed that he was going to take a day or two of pure time here. However, Luo Bing was not in a hurry. It really doesn't work, it can also turn on the lucky halo to find the location of the space node. But in this unknown hell, Luo Bing didn't dare to use that thing. It would be bad if the game crashed, and it could be related to his way home. The barbecued meat exudes a tempting aroma, Luo Bing is very capable of cooking, and the aroma quickly permeates all around. Gudong! Hella swallowed. She is a Protoss and can go for a long time without eating, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't need to eat at all. In hell for more than 2,000 years, she has also slaughtered many Ender Dragons, but her cooking methods are not flattering at all. Chapter 84. At about 12 noon, Luo Bing enjoyed his own barbecue. Hella emerged from the side, unceremoniously tore off a leg, and gnawed it. You still dare to appear in front of me? Luo Bing was speechless and laughed angrily. Why don't you dare, do you have the heart to do something to a weak woman? Hella drank the food in her hands without fear. Weak woman. Luo Bing didn't know what to say. This woman provoked herself again and again, and caused herself a lot of trouble. Now he sits down and shares his barbecue like no one else. What was she thinking? I'm not eating your food for nothing, anyway, we don't have any big grievances, right? Hella looked at Luo Bing and jumped at the oil stain on her mouth, looking very charming. It's really not big. If I were an ordinary person, I would have been played to death by you long ago. Luo Bing looked at her with a calm expression. But you're awesome, aren't you? There are only two of us in this hell now. I think we need to get along well, after all, it's still a long time, Hela smiled coquettishly. For example, let you eat my feet. Luo Bing had a smile on his lips, looking very seductive. Hela was silent, she didn't want to think about that. It seemed that he was about to get angry soon, but she was immediately put down by her. I can give you a piece of information, before long, there will be acid rain in hell that's not ordinary rain. Even your body can't handle it. I advise you to find a cave quickly, but it's not easy to find a shelter in this place. If you treat me better, I might tell you where there is a place to hide from the rain. 780 Hela said while eating the barbecue to herself. Oh, no need. Luo Bing disdainfully picked up the rest of the grilled meat from the grill and devoured it. Stingy man, but I like it. Hela smiled charmingly. Luo Bing's heart froze when he looked at him, but because of the uncertain attitude of the other party, it was not easy for him to attack. This is the truth of reaching out and not hitting a smiling person. Not long after, the dark night sky really started to rain acid rain just as Hela said. The ender dragon corpse that was cut down by Luo Bing in the distance made a rustling sound, and soon it was completely corroded, leaving only a skeleton full of holes. Hela covered her sky with divine power. But it is obvious that her divine power is also limited, and it is impossible to do this all the time. Follow me, it's a pity for a handsome guy like you to die here, Hela said, leading the way. But Luo Bing ignored her. He took a deep breath and covered his head with 100 layers of glass doors, forming a huge amount of sunshade net. Chi chi chi. Drops of water pierced through the stone, and raindrops corroded the glass door, leaving holes of file size for each drop of water. Creation magic is useless, only the special rocks of hell can resist the attack of these acid rains. Hela looked back and laughed. Advertisement. Luo Bing ignored it, and the three-hooked jade riding wheel spun wildly, and a golden, bafa, colored six-pointed star kaleidoscope appeared in his eye sockets. Amaterasu. The black flames spread, covering Luo Bing's head. The strange raindrops fell on the flames and made a chi-chi sound, and then the whole combustion evaporated. Hey! Hela watched this scene cautiously. The black flame that could burn raindrops made her feel very dangerous. A miraculous man, I really like my concubine more and more, Hela said, and came over to block the rain extremely shamelessly. Withdrew his divine power. I don't seem to have invited you in. Luo Bing looked at Hela with a dark face. You didn't refuse either. Hela smiled slyly, staring straight at the man in front of her, as if she wanted to eat him. Whatever you want. Luo Bing shook his head. Sit down and continue to review the space nodes, looking for traces belonging to the Earth from hundreds of millions of space nodes. Hela just held her cheeks and looked at the man in front of her. She was amused by the useless efforts of men. She has been here for thousands of years. If there was a way to escape, she would have gone out long ago. Odin has banned Odin everywhere, and it is impossible for Odin to go out without death. Time passed slowly, and the acid rain above my head gradually stopped. Luo Bing, who was still closing his eyes, was suddenly disturbed by a burning smell, and frowned dejectedly. Hela got an ender dragon's thigh from nowhere, and was trying hard to cook it on the grill. When Luo Bing woke up, he giggled and said, "Give it back, I don't like to owe it." Someone else's stuff. Luo Bing has a black line on his face. Are you sure you want to pay me back instead of trying to poison me? His progress is very fast, he has found the space node of the sun. Now that the solar system has been found, it is not far from the Earth. However, Luo Bing would not jump into the sun rashly, it was purely courting death. Stop thinking, there is no way to get out here, I think you are not bad, why don't we do something more interesting? It's good to pass away the loneliness, Hela said, she seemed to have settled for this man. You can solve it with your own hands, I want to live for a few more years. Luo Bing was puzzled, his body moved instantly again, came to another place, and began to sit down with his knees crossed. Hela is angry. What do you mean by solving it yourself? What does that mean? She was about to go mad. Damn it, don't you want this man who sent her to your door for nothing? He said it so hard. He was still sitting on the ground like a log in a daze. But... Advertisement. Luo Bing is not in a daze, but unfortunately Hela will not understand this. Not long after, Hela found Luo Bing again and threw the barbecue on the ground angrily. I'm bored, fight with me, the woman said. Crazy Luo Bing had no interest and hit him with a pregnancy stare. Half an hour passed. Hela, who frowned, finally let out a long sigh, sweating profusely. Have the ability to confront me head-on, don't use sorcery, if I beat you to the ground, you will be my servant in the future. Hela said. What if I win? Luo Bing asked jokingly. Then I'm your slave girl, do whatever you want. Hela snorted coldly, she was very careful, but she didn't think this man could beat her with real power. Not interested, Luo Bing shook his head and closed his eyes again. You. Hela was about to say something when she watched the man's golden eyes staring at him. You're here again, shameless. Hela lay on the ground and curled up, but after 1 or 2 times, she gradually got used to it and it didn't hurt that much. But still left a lot of psychological trauma. You'll find out right away that everything you've done is in vain, this is a prison, and it's impossible to escape. Hela grimaced, clutching her stomach, frowning. I found out. Luo Bing suddenly opened his eyes with a smile on his face. Hey! Hela frowned. Okay, my hell trip is over, see you next time, woman, Luo Bing said. The focal length of his eyes was fixed on a certain place, the Shenwei space connected with the space nodes slowly opened, and the other side of the void black hole was a neatly arranged high-rise building. That's Earth. Luo Bing disappeared in a flash, and went straight in. The black hole closed instantly, and Hela, who couldn't react because of her weakness, looked at this scene with a dazed expression. The whole person is directly messed up. However, before she could roar, the black hole opened from the outside again. Luo Bing stuck his head out from the outside, with high-rise buildings in the background. He had mastered the space nodes and he came and went freely. He threw a high-tech mobile phone and threw it beside Hela. It's boring to see you, I'll go first, you may be able to play stand-alone games to pass the time, I hope this thing can last longer. Luo Bing raised the corners of his mouth, smiling wickedly. After saying this on purpose, the figure slowly disappeared, and the black hole closed again. Hela froze in place, watching this scene in shock. At the moment when the black hole opened, she felt the breath of the outside world, and he really did it. Take me with you. 35 I want to go out. Hela shouted in place, but unfortunately no one responded to her. All she was left with was a sparkling mobile phone. Chapter 85. It feels so good to be in the Sunday. Luo Bing stretched and stuffed the phone in his pocket. The reason why he went back and threw a cell phone was not a sudden attack of kindness. He just wanted to go back and be angry with that arrogant woman. Look, brother can come in and go out anytime? Is this what you mean by daydreaming? You, just stay here honestly. Luo Bing has no intention of saving the girl in distress at all, what kind of stubborn woman can be locked in that place? Just meet by chance. Luo Bing doesn't have time to take care of other people's affairs. The black hole that appeared out of thin air on the street attracted the attention of many people. Luo Bing has gradually become familiar with the feeling of being watched by people. He waved his hand at the camera, turned around and disappeared in place. Malibu Shore 10880, Luo Bing first went back to his castle and found no one inside, and then went to Tony's house opposite. Only then did I know that the two women had made an appointment to go shopping. Luo Bing is speechless, no one seems to worry about him. I went to an alien planet, and I almost never came back. $3 billion. In fact, he only disappeared for a day. But this day was really long. He went to Asgard, and somehow became the hero who saved Asgard. Later, he went to Hell, where he also met the Ender Legion and the woman who hadn't cleaned up. It's been a lot on this day. I'm afraid no one will believe it. You're back. Tony was still tinkering with something in the basement. In fact, it is Luo Bing's armor, and it looks very good now. I heard that you went to the kingdom of the gods, how is it? Are there many beauties there? 33 Tony put down the tools in his hand, laughed twice, and poured coffee from the side. Beauty, okay, but the scenery there is beautiful, Luo Bing replied. Oh, boss, how can you just pay attention to the scenery? Girl is the most important thing, and that's the god of legends. Tony's eyes widened, looking very depressed. If I go to Asgard, I will definitely find 2 Protoss girls to spend the spring night together, that's what a man should do. Tony took a sip of coffee, his face like a playboy. Come on, the little pepper will tear you apart. Luo Bing rolled his eyes and picked up the coffee from the table. Ahem. J.A.R.V.I.S, delete the recording of that paragraph just now. Tony immediately became serious. Are you sure about the relationship? Luo Bing asked with a smile. So Tony scoffed. It's not like a playboy Tony Stark, Luo Bing quipped. Well, although the forest is good, sometimes it seems lonely, it's better to find a tree to hang it on. Tony shrugged and filled a cup of coffee again. Pay attention to rest, your body won't be able to survive like this, Luo Bing reminded kindly. No way, my brain keeps running all the time, it can't stop at all, those materials are too valuable to be used, and I can't stop all the time. Tony shook his head, he has been relying on sleeping pills to forcefully fall asleep recently. Especially when he learned that there are aliens like gods in this world, he was under a lot of pressure. Oh, by the way, Luo Bing suddenly remembered something, and took out the destroyer armor from the Shinwei space. He didn't understand technology, and it was more appropriate to leave it to Tony to study. Oh my god, is this the guy in the news? So big. Tony stroked the destroyer's metal casing with excitement, like he was stroking a lover. Looks like I'm going to work overtime again. Tony was very pleasantly surprised, he might be able to pick up some new technologies from this alien armor to perfect his Mark series. The inconvenience of dressing has always been a headache for Tony. Looks like I shouldn't have given it to you so early. Luo Bing shook his head and stood up. You take a rest, I have to go to SHIELD. Luo Bing said, took out a new mobile phone from the cabinet, put on the calling card, turned around and disappeared. It's really a quick and convenient super ability, no matter how many times you watch it, it's so amazing. 4 flowers, 0. Watching Luo Bing disappear out of thin air again, Tony shook his head enviously. However, he couldn't envy things like super ability, not everyone was blessed. His super ability is his brain. Even as a mortal, ability is better than a god. Sanquing Headquarters Building. Hey Bruden stretched out, flipping through the documents at hand. Generally, the more important documents S.H.I.E.L.D. will not be used as electronic files, and traditional handwritten reports are still used. After all, in this era of information exchange, the network is not as secure as imagined. Swish! Luo Bing suddenly appeared in front of the black marinated egg, startling him. Fury, it'd be great if you could have a shot at roar before the next pop, you'll scare me out of a heart attack. Fury's face was dark, but with his complexion it wasn't very noticeable. Don't worry, you are healthy now. Luo Bing found a chair and sat down. So what happened later? I didn't go back to headquarters until noon, and you came over in a while. Fury was speechless. He spent a lot of time on the plane, and it was great to be able to cross several continents in an instant. What's that place like? I mean, the gods. Fury asked with a frown, serious. He was both in awe and fear in his heart for such an unimaginable thing. It's just a group of aliens. They visited the Earth thousands of years ago, so they left some legends at the moment. Their attitude towards the Earth is friendly. After all, I just became an Asgard hero, Luo Bing said, lying on a chair with his legs on the desk. Your clothes, so retro. Fury rolled his eyes. Then he frowned suspiciously, why are you their hero again? Luo Bing shrugged, I don't know, maybe I made their enemies pregnant. Hearing this, Fury froze in place. For a long time, he rubbed his black and bright head suspiciously. What did you say, A&D? Chapter 86. Fury's eyes widened, he didn't understand what Luo Bing said about getting the enemy pregnant. How should I put it, in layman's terms, I have a new ability, whether it is a man or a woman, as long as I stare at me, I will get pregnant. Definitely not a real doubt, just a pregnancy and childbirth experience, but this ability is to make human beings feel the greatness of mother's love, and has no other meaning, Luo Bing explained. Black marinated eggs, I believe in you. There is no other meaning. Isn't this just staring at someone who is pregnant? Subconsciously, Fury's eyes were dodged, a little too afraid to look Luo Bing's eyes directly. What would he do if he shot himself? What are you afraid of? Am I like that kind of boring person? Luo Bing was speechless, looking at Fury with a black line. Even if there is a 1 in a million chance, I definitely don't want to understand what it's like for a man to get pregnant. Hey Lu Dan is cowardly, so I don't blame him. Being able to get a man pregnant sounds terrifying. No one is cowardly. Actually, your experience is quite good, and you can deeply understand the greatness of maternal love, Luo Bing's birth suggestion. No, Fury shook his head repeatedly. He didn't want to experience the greatness of maternal love in this way, absolutely not. Okay, you're scared, that's it for the mission report, are there any other missions? Luo Bing asked aloud. No, 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 go home and rest. Fury waved his hands again and again. Robin Agent is still suitable as a mascot, and it is frightening every time he performs a task. Luo Bing understood, nodded, and disappeared in place. Then, he appeared strangely in S.H.I.E.L.'s secret warehouse and glanced at the sparkling tesseract in front of him. Infinite gems. Listening to Odin, each of the 6 infinite gems represents an ability, so this one is a space gem? Luo Bing looked curiously, finally shook his head and left. 6 are too difficult to get together, not to mention that in addition to the 3 known, the other 3 are still missing. In the vast universe, who knows where these gems will be lost? Come and go freely. Luo Bing is basically undefended anywhere on Earth. He didn't go home directly, and there was no one at home. Sky and Pepper went shopping, and the Stark guy was all in the lab. The Malibu coast is beautiful, but it's too far from the city center and too quiet. Luo Bing first visited the supermarket. Yes, that's right. Superhero also has time to go to the supermarket. However, Luo Bing is not idle and bored. He has too much space for divine power, and it is a waste if he does not make good use of it. Luo Bing purchased a lot of daily necessities, bought in all aspects, and finally experienced the life of the rich. The shop owner followed behind him, watching Luo Bing throw one product after another into his shopping cart. In any case, this store will definitely be popular in the future. After all, it is the supermarket where Superhero bought it. How much? Luo Bing started to check out. No money, the shop owner waved his hand immediately. If you don't take money, what's the point of me working hard to earn money? How can you understand that I'm very rich now if you don't take money? But even if he has no money, Luo Bing will not take other people's things for nothing. Not a single point should be given. After a phone call, when he learned of Happy's location, Luo Bing instantly dragged him from 100 miles away. He bought a lot of things, and it was a waste of time to count the bills. This kind of thing is more appropriate to leave to Happy, he is a very good assistant. Walk slowly. Happy recovered from the confusion, and was very excited to be able to work for Luo Bing. Luo Bing waved his hand, put on his sunglasses and turned to leave. Walking on the street, looking at the bustling city, Luo Bing's heart is very calm, he likes to be in such crowded places, maybe human beings are a kind of social animals. The TV station on the street also constantly reported the news about Superhero. Captain America, who has returned from a veteran player, has actually started a side business of shooting promotional videos after gaining a lot of support from old fans. It's not really a side job. After all, he had been selling US debt with the cheerleaders during World War II. This time it is mainly for the education of students who make mistakes. I heard that since the approval of this series of educational videos, many students have made mistakes on purpose, in order to watch the special education of Mr. Steve, the instructor. This can be nerve-wracking for many professors and principals. But this is also normal, because of the novelty, it won't take long for this craze to gradually recede. Luo Bing strolled on the pedestrian street, he didn't have it for a long time and he walked and stopped easily. The boys and girls who came and went by the road seemed to constantly remind Luo Bing that he should find a company. Luo Bing shook his head, wandered around and came to a remote alley. This is 3rd Street in Queens. But now this is a no man's land, and S.H.I.E.L.'s finishing work was done very quickly. The bodies on the street have been cleaned up in a day, but there is still a lot of blood left on the ground. The surrounding area was tightly blocked with barbed wire, and a danger sign of severe infection was erected. There are still people inside. Luo Bing raised his eyebrows, his spatial perception could detect strange changes in space. There are several groups of people in there. One of the girls seems to have a very strong magnetic field on her body. Luo Bing walked over through the barbed wire without hiding his figure. Before long, he was surrounded by a group of boys and girls. Most of those people are children, they look like 13 or 14, the youngest is only about 5 years old, a little girl with blonde hair. One of them was a very conspicuous girl with green hair standing in front of Luo Bing, her face was cold, she looked like the eldest sister of the group of children. Hey, this is a forbidden area, outsiders can't enter, the girl said. You don't look like the staff, Luo Bing replied with a smile. We are orphans, and they left a lot of supplies when they evacuated here. You know, for people like us, this is paradise, the woman said, stating the facts without emotion. There are many homeless people like them. In the past 2 days, there have been many homeless people living in Queens 5.0. Aren't you afraid of infection? A lot of monsters have died in this area, and the environment is easy to breed viruses. Luo Bing frowned. He was also an orphan since he was a child, but he was very lucky to live in an orphanage and grow up, but the orphanage was limited after all, and there were countless children living on the streets. Especially after the disaster in Queens, the orphanage has been crowded. There is simply no ability to raise so many children. We are more afraid of starvation, sir. If it's all right, please leave. You don't look like someone here, the woman said, looking directly at the man's eyes with sunglasses. What's your name? It looks very special, Luo Bing asked with a smile without leaving. The girl hesitated for a moment, seems to feel that the man in front of her is not malicious, and opens her mouth. Polaris. Chapter 87. Polaris. Luo Bing raised his eyebrows, somewhat surprised, and nodded understandingly. Generally, many orphans do not have their own surnames, which is normal. Even their names are given by themselves, which have special meanings. The woman in front of her was very beautiful, and the electromagnetic waves on her body also meant that she was not as ordinary people. However, although her tone is cold, there is no doubt that she is indeed a kind-hearted woman. No one will protect a group of young orphans in this chaotic land. For everyone, that group of kids is a big drag. Are you a former Queens resident? Luo Bing asked. For the survivors of Queens who all moved out of the city a day after the disaster, it was not only a place of contamination but also a place of heartbreak. Luo Bing gradually remembered something. It was not the first time he had seen this girl. He saved a lot of people that night, too many to count, and there seems to be a shadow of this girl among them, but because the situation was too chaotic, Luo Bing didn't care what kind of people he saved, and many people were saved by him. Luo Bing was completely unimpressed. Do not know why. Polaris felt an indescribable feeling emanating from the man in front of him. She was willing to talk to him. Yet. The girl nodded with hesitation. I also have a younger brother and sister, but they are all missing, they should be dead. Her expression was a bit lonely, but she was a strong girl, and she quickly shook her head, forgetting those unpleasant things. Luo Bing did not speak. He looked at the child in front of him. The faces of those children were still covered in mud and ashes, and their confused eyes dared not look at themselves. The brightly dressed Luo Bing seemed out of place for them. It's like people from two worlds. These children have low self-esteem, and after losing their family, they are helpless, and it is Polaris who takes care of them. Do your brothers and sisters have any characteristics? Maybe they are still alive, or maybe they are just separated from you, Luo Bing asked aloud. Wanda, Pietro, one of them has red hair, the other has silver hair. Polaris shook her head. She herself had looked for traces of her brother and sister, but unfortunately, she found nothing. When rescued by the Black Knight, they were scattered in confusion. Luo Bing thought about it carefully. He saved many red-haired and silver-haired residents in his memory, but most of them didn't have much impression. Not everyone is as conspicuous as Polaris' natural green hair. But what kind of talents are their parents? They can actually give birth to 3 children with colored hair? This is definitely not an ordinary family. At least Luo Bing felt a strong electromagnetic tick on the girl's body. This girl is very special. She may have super abilities that are beyond ordinary people. My name is Luo Bing, and I have been an orphan since I was a child. Can you show me here? I am now a trainee reporter, in charge of post-disaster research work, Luo Bing said, miraculously taking out a pocket-sized computer from his pocket. Camera. Luo Bing? Your clothes. Polaris frowned, the man dressed like a reporter. I bought it from Chinatown. I'm a Hyuxia. I didn't expect you to call me by my name. Luo Bing smiled, somewhat surprised. He smiled very nicely, like a gust of wind blowing. Oh. The girl hesitation, as if thinking about something, looked at the child behind her. She was still wary of strangers. Maybe after I report the situation here, someone with good intentions will adopt them. It's a good thing, isn't it? Luo Bing asked with a smile. Polaris thought again and nodded. Since awakening her super ability that night, she is not afraid of anyone now. Even a reporter man who looks strong, she can easily defeat him. Luo Bing followed Polaris to visit their temporary accommodation. It was a small supermarket. The valuable goods on the shelves have been removed, but the remaining materials are also abundant, enough for their daily food and lodging. In fact, this nearly destroyed city has almost become a homeless paradise, an unsupervised area, and all the materials left behind are theirs. Queens was also a prosperous city before, and there are countless treasures here. Every mall is a treasure map. The water source here is polluted. In addition to the precious water, there are many supplies here, so there is no need to worry about starvation, Polaris said. I don't know if there is pollution here, but there is no better place for us here. If it weren't for those disgusting robbers, this would be heaven. Polaris handed a bottle of drinking water from the shelf to Luo Bing. Rest assured, vacuum-packed items like this are safe. Thank you. Luo Bing glanced at the drinking water in his hand, unscrewed the cap and took a sip. What did you just say about the robber? Luo Bing asked. They were gangsters, and they gradually formed gangs and robbed everything like crazy, explained Polaris. But don't worry, I will protect you. The girl glanced at Luo Bing, and the eldest patted Luo Bing's shoulder in a graceful manner. Luo Bing sneered, it was the first time he was treated like this. This small supermarket was transformed into a large residence, the empty shelves were overturned on the ground, covered with cardboard and the quilt from the supermarket, which is also a bed. There are about 17 children here, the oldest is 14 years old, like a little man, very sensible, responsible for taking care of the younger brothers and sisters. They looked at Luo Bing curiously, and after getting acquainted again, raised their hands one by one and asked to take pictures. Luo Bing, to meet their requirements, leaving a smile on the camera. Luo Bing spent the whole afternoon here very relaxed. As the sun went down, Luo Bing and Polaris lay on the rooftop and looked at the site of the ruined city, which was unique. Why does 793 always wear sunglasses and can't take them off? The girl asked curiously. Until now, she has not seen the true face of the man. My eyes have been hurt recently. I'm afraid to scare you. Luo Bing casually lied and perfunctory. Polaris blinked and looked at the sky quietly. Look at that. She pointed her finger in one direction. It won't be long before the brightest star in the world will appear there. Well, that's Polaris, it's beautiful, Luo Bing replied with a smile. The girl was stunned for a while, not knowing whether the man who said beautiful was referring to herself, or the stars. But she didn't think much about it, she already had a place in her heart. I like the dark night. Girl tidied up her long green hair and took a deep roar inhalation. Why? Luo Bing turned to look at each other. Because my hero often haunts the dark night and night goes better with Polaris. The girl is Huai-chun, with yearning and longing for love on her face. Luo Bing feels amazing, the hero in the dark night. Who is it referring to? The world seemed to be so quiet, the two enjoyed the evening breeze, and the fatigue of the day was slowly washed away. But this beautiful scene doesn't last long. Not long after, a scream came, and a group of angry homeless people appeared at the door of the supermarket. In their hands, they also grabbed a child who ran out to play. Chapter 88. There are about 30 or 50 people in a group, and they are the largest group developed in the nearby area. One by one wearing the most fashionable clothes, wearing gold chains, the Rolex in his hand covered his entire arm. They were lucky to find a jewelry store that had not been evacuated and looted almost everything in that store. On the morning after the disaster, the US government organized survivors to move their finances, but many residents had already died, and those things had become unowned. Some of the more precious items were raided by the troops, but there were still many omissions that were hidden under the ruins. The leader was a black man with dreadlocks on his head and tattoos in the shape of a wolf's head on his arms and neck. The younger brother on the side was looking forward to him. This guy doesn't seem like a good character to get along with. Where is the person in charge here? This brat dares to steal from our Black Wolf gang. I'm really tired of living. The black man shouted loudly, watching the small supermarket in front of him just about to move. They have collected a lot of items, but it is rare to see such well-preserved supermarkets, and they are drooling when they see the dazzling array of goods. This is an unsupervised area, everything is unowned, and if you rob it, it will be yours. Polaris looked gloomy and hurriedly jumped off the rooftop. She landed on the ground smoothly with the help of the air conditioner box on the balcony, and her skills were very strong. Luo Bing raised his eyebrows and jumped down. Let go of that child. Polaris looked angry, and she felt very cold when she was angry. Like a 1,000-year-old glacier. Oh, such a delicate beauty. The eyes of the black man with dreadlocks lit up instantly. In this no man's land, women are rare, especially such delicate beauties, this is simply a gift from God. The younger brother on the side was even more unbearable, looking up and down the Polaris in front of him presumptuously, and his mouth was about to flow out. I didn't steal anything from them, I didn't know it belonged to them, the child yelled, tears streaming down his face. I'll say it again, let go of that kid. Polaris' eyes were cold and his fists clenched fiercely. This is not the first time, she has also been harassed by homeless people before, who thought she was just a woman and showed her ugly nature. That was the first time she killed someone, and she vomited for an hour that day, but since then, Polaris seems to have changed, and her temperament has changed drastically. The US government doesn't care about these homeless people at all. For them, it couldn't be better to use these worms to experiment with radiation levels in Queens. Anyway, they are some worms at the bottom of the society, and they are left to fend for themselves. After a year or two, it will be determined that there is no harm in this place, and then we will solve it uniformly. Little beauty, I think you look good, how about being my gun bed? The man with dreadlocks laughed, and the younger brother on the side also whistled to suit the occasion. Humph. 35 Polaris snorted coldly, with killing intent in her eyes, she beckoned, all the kitchen furniture on the supermarket shelf magically flew over, floating beside her, the bright kitchen knives reached their hearts, as if they were being targeted. The picture is very weird. The dreadlocks man was also taken aback by this scene. Super ability. The dreadlocks man was shocked. Super ability is no longer a secret. I didn't expect this girl to be the legendary super ability person, damn it. Hey, we have no ill intentions, put down these ghosts, and we will leave immediately. The black dreadlocks raised their hands, facing the mysterious and weird super ability, and they were terrified in their hearts. Let the baby go, Polaris said coldly again. A haze flashed in the eyes of the dreadlocked black man, and he smiled as he glanced at the dozen or so children hiding behind Polaris. Everyone has weaknesses. This woman cares so much about these children, that is her biggest weakness. The man with dreadlocks was suddenly no longer afraid, pulled out the pistol from his coat, and pressed it firmly on the child's head. I'm the most disgusting group of you monsters, what do you all think you are? You are an outlier, and the world becomes so ugly because of the existence of people like you. Now, put those things down obediently, or I'll kill this child immediately. The dreaded man sneered and turned off the insurance. The child pointed at by the gun closed his eyes in fear and did not dare to move. Even at a young age, he knew what that meant. You. Polaris' face turned ugly. The awakening super ability she used just now was not that handy, and right now, a line of blood was silently flowing down her nostrils. Ha 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 ha! The dreadlocks black people were even more excited when they saw this scene. His eyes turned to the girl in front of him again, his eyes full of evil desire. What would it feel like to be able to hold this proud black swan under you? Sister Polaris, leave me alone. The little boy who was pointed at by the gun suddenly shouted. He overcame the fear in his heart and slammed into the arms that were trapping his body. Da-da! The bitten little brother screamed, and he let go subconsciously. The little boy got out of trouble and ran towards Polaris with all his strength. The dreaded black man raised the gun in his hand with a gloomy face and pointed it at the younger boy of the little boy. Go to hell, he yelled. A gunshot came, and the little boy squatted down and covered his head. However, the bullet stayed strangely in mid-air. Polaris was pale, and more blood was flowing from her nostrils. She knelt on one knee on the ground, and there was no trace of blush on her face. Ability is constantly developed to become powerful. Polaris has never tried to stop a high-speed flight bullet. She did it. But for this, she also paid a small price. At the moment she was very weak. Whoosh! With a wave of Polaris's hand, the bullet returned at super high speed, but was less than accurate, only bruising one arm of the dreaded black man. Damn monster! The dreaded black man screamed, and the younger brothers around him, Zhao Yuhao, took up the weapons in their hands and pointed at Polaris. Some are shotguns, some are daggers, more are icy machetes, fire axes. Take them away, leave it to me here. Polaris turned his head and roared at Luo Bing. This stubborn woman intends to face it all alone. Luo Bing was unmoved, and he was ready to do it the moment the gun rang, but what he didn't expect was that Polaris actually blocked the bullet. Her ability should be to manipulate metal, Luo Bing thought in his heart and walked forward. Why not go? Polaris complained, now is not the time to be masculine. Those people have weapons in their hands. What the hell are you doing as a reporter? Luo Bing stretched, took off the $30,000 worth of sunglasses, and threw them aside. I'm not a man hiding behind women. Thank you for your protection, leave it to me next, Luo Bing said, the corners of his mouth rose, revealing a charming arc. Chapter 89. When the man took off his sunglasses, Polaris was stunned. The group of children next to him were also stunned. They all recognized the man, the knight who saved their lives in the night. Batman. The black dreadlocks naturally recognized the man in front of them. Luo Bing just made a trick roar in front of the media, and then criminals all over the world remembered that face, that handsome and terrifying face. Tell me, how do you want to die? Luo Bing's expression was flat. These little characters don't even deserve to let him know their names. He slaughtered a lot of such people. If not enough, these people will never be killed. They are like a disease. This disease cannot be eradicated at all. There will be such an existence in every era. Unless the earth develops like a god's domain one day, and the resources are so rich that everyone can live and work in peace and contentment, this phenomenon will always exist. Don't kill us. We know we were wrong, please forgive us once, please. The more than 30 little gangsters who were still vicious just now fell to their knees on the ground in fright, and the stench of urine dripped on the ground. The biggest difference between me and other leather warriors is that I'm never soft-hearted. Luo Bing smiled, but the smile seemed so piercing in the eyes of the enemy. 793 Forgive you is a matter of God, and my task is to send you to see the old man, Luo Bing said, and elegantly reached out into the black hole on the side, and pulled out a delicate and slender gorgeous sword. The handle of the sword body is inlaid with exquisite purple gems. Asgard's collection is just such bells and whistles. But killing people with this kind of sword is also very beautiful. Luo Bing swung a sword lightly, the sword wave rippling, sending out a void slash. That is space division. Luo Bing has become more and more comfortable to use, and can even be released with weapons. In just 1 second, more than 30 people fell to the ground forever. That picture is not conducive to the mental growth of children, but Luo Bing did not deliberately cover up this scene. For these orphans, care is not the best way to nurture them. They have to deeply realize the cruelty of this world, because only they can protect themselves. The Shinwei space on the side has not been closed yet. Luo Bing turned around and stuffed the gorgeous sword whose name was unknown. He has a lot of this kind of thing, although it can't be called an artifact, but it is sharp enough. I don't know what metal material was used to hammer it out. I'm sorry I lied to you, I'm not a journalist. Looking back at Polaris who was standing still, Luo Bing smiled apologetically. Polaris was dumbfounded, a little overwhelmed, the blood from his nostrils dripped on his clothes and didn't notice it. Luo Bing took out a handkerchief from his body and patiently wiped the blood from her nose. You're not very skilled in using your super ability, you just started awakening, right? Luo Bing asked aloud. Polaris suddenly seemed to be a shy girl, and her face flushed a bit. I don't know if it's because my body has recovered, or because I'm suddenly shy. Maybe both. Batman. Batman hail. Night hail. The children ran over in surprise and surrounded Luo Bing. For children, superhero or something is simply a dream, and being able to see superhero in person is more pleasant than anything. Even at this time, they didn't pay attention to the corpse lying on the ground. Hey, don't squeeze, hey, you guy, don't learn how to hug your thighs. Luo Bing is helpless by a bunch of kids. Polaris couldn't help but burst out laughing at this happy scene. Luo Bing was attracted by this smile and looked at her. The two smiled at each other, and the atmosphere was very ambiguous. After agreeing to come back to accompany her to train with her super ability tomorrow, Luo Bing said goodbye to everyone. He had no reason to take them away. After all, they had only known each other for a day. Back in the castle on the coast of Marbury, Sky seemed to have known the news of Luo Bing's return, and was busy in the kitchen early. Her culinary skills seemed to have improved a bit. Buffa. The little peppers on the other side are always asking her for advice. I'm back, it's quite fragrant. Luo Bing sat down at the dining table to eat unceremoniously, in a good mood. Sky also discovered this and joked with a smile, I am so happy today, did I find money, or did I meet someone I like? Luo Bing shrugged. Maybe, I met a nice girl today, I think she's pretty good, very loving. Sky froze in place, she just asked a question casually, but this guy really responded. Something is wrong. Sky pulled an emergency warning in his heart. Recalling the knowledge Xiao Chili gave her, the whole person was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. How to do? What to do? I'm done eating, go to bed early. Luo Bing patted his stomach contentedly, he didn't have the self-consciousness to wash the dishes after dinner. Sky was still messy in the living room, she immediately called her close comrade-in-arms Little Pepper, and the two discussed tactics on the phone. After Luo Bing returned to the room, he picked up his phone and looked at it. Before he left Polaris a phone number, and the two added a face. Are you home yet? Miss Polaris. Luo Bing looked at the flashing avatar, didn't know how to reply, and then. My name is not Robin. And. Soon, Polaris sent a new message. Thank you for today, Miss Polaris. Luo Bing scratched his head, he really didn't know how to reply to girls. Then. My name is not Robin. I'm always a jerk. Luo Bing began to complain about himself, and rolled his eyes helplessly. Sure enough, he didn't know how to chat with girls at all. I'll make you something delicious when you come over tomorrow, Miss Polaris. Okay. I am not called Robin. It seems that Luo Bing's high coldness made Polaris over there embarrassed to interrupt any more. The two sent a message of see you tomorrow, and then the phone went silent. Luo Bing let out a sigh of relief and lay down on the bed. This Kendo Master Dugu's subtle way of flirting with girls doesn't work either. Pit goods. No wonder you are lonely. Luo Bing was speechless. He pulled this single dog ability into the blacklist in his heart. He was about to send his phone, but the phone rang again. Hey! Luo Bing frowned, seeing that a person named Queen sent him a friend request. Who is it? Luo Bing is puzzled, not many people know his face number. Then. He clicked the agree button. Ding ding ding. The phone vibrated and the Queen sent a message, get me out. Queen. Luo Bing frowned, his face serious. Where are you? What happened? I'm not Robin. Hell. Queen. FK. This chapter contains pictures, click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 90. Named Queen, and now people are in hell? Luo Bing's eyes widened, is someone playing a prank? Is it really the woman in hell? What's your name? I'm not Robin. Hella. Don't talk nonsense, come and save me. Queen. Luo Bing breathed a sigh of relief. It was Hella. Fortunately, I don't know it, it shouldn't be that woman in hell. And many more. I don't even know what that woman in hell is called, ah. Luo Bing frowned, thinking that this is impossible, now the Wi-Fi is connected to hell? If he said that the woman used the mobile phone he left behind and happened to see his face number, he would still think there was a possibility, but with Wi-Fi in hell, no matter how he thought about it, he felt weird. Do we know each other? Luo Bing frowned and edited the message and clicked send. Although he already had 7% confidence in him, he was still not sure. After this message was sent, there was no reply for a long time. Luo Bing shook his head and threw his phone aside, what seemed to be a coincidental prank. Maybe he thought too much. It is, how can it be possible to connect to Wi-Fi in hell? Isn't this nonsense? In the dead silent hell. Hella looked at the phone in front of her that lost the signal again, she was so angry that she wanted to smash this thing. Before she finally got through, Luo Bing left and forced her divine power to penetrate a small hole, her energy could not penetrate, she studied for a long time and got a weak signal from the earth. After that, she studied the mobile phone for a long time, and then she got in touch with Luo Bing. This is already amazing. It's a pity that the space healed too fast, and the weak connection she opened up after abolishing the power of 9 bulls and 2 tigers healed quickly. This means that she has to spend most of her divine power again to impact that space node. But Hella was not discouraged. Time is the least valuable thing to her, and that man is the only hope to get her out of here. Luo Bing was bored playing the league to pass the time, and now the outside world is very peaceful, maybe because the roar of superhero is so loud these days, the criminals are hiding. Occasionally, a few link token are also cleaned up by the good neighbor Spider-Man. 12 o'clock in the middle of the night came slowly. Lucky aura on. Sign in successfully. Today's copy of the ability Imagination Realization has been delivered, please enjoy it. Imagination Realization, create real objects in reality through fantasy power and spiritual power. The more complex the real objects are, the higher fantasy power and mental power are required. Warm reminder, too greedy will burn your brain, This is from the universe tips for the first beautiful girl horse monkey Soju void creation. Luo Bing thought of this magic for the first time. He had heard it in Asgard. But normally, void creations rely on unique magic spells to imprint a single thing or item. For example, the simplest generation of water, fire, lightning, and wind, which contains magic elements, but also the ingredients of void creation. The most intuitive thing is that Luo Bing's Rashomon has always been mistaken by Odin and others as a creation of the void. What the hell is horse monkey shaku? How could anyone name themselves that? Luo Bing was speechless. Spiritually, he understands a little bit of the general meaning. Luo Bing's spiritual power is different from that of ordinary people, which may also be due to the reason of his immortal body, as well as his supernatural powers, each of which seems to strengthen his spiritual power. For example, Beast's Instinct and another example of Shinyan, these are all honing his mental power all the time. But imagination is too illusory, isn't it? It can't be grasped or touched. But in general, this time it is a 4-character ability, which should not be bad. Luo Bing sat upright and began to test his new ability. First, he visualized the item he wanted in his mind, then concentrated and silently triggered the skill. Beep. 35. A $1 coin hung on the ground with a crisp sound. It doesn't seem to be difficult. Luo Bing looked at the coin in his hand eagerly, showing a look of joy. Sure enough, this guy's first thought after getting this ability was to manifest money. But I can directly show what money can buy. What do I need money for? Luo Bing silently complained about his behavior. Then he closed his eyes again, this time imagining a slender sword in his mind. Crack! The metal sword fell to the ground with a thud. Interesting. Luo Bing picked up the rapier and found that it was exactly the same as he imagined. Even Luo Bing engraved a pig's head on the handle of the knife when he visualized it. There is also a little pig's head present. What an amazing ability! Looks like I won't be able to sell tickets for my Magic World Tour 0. Luo Bing muttered to himself twice, and he didn't have any strange feeling after realizing the two things. Perhaps these two things were too simple and didn't waste much of his mental power at all. Okay. The next one will be infinite gems. Luo Bing clapped his hands and began to visualize in his mind based on the appearance of Tesseract. Danger! Danger! Beast instinctively gave a timely warning, as if reminding Luo Bing not to do stupid things. Luo Bing, 6699. Well, not really, the realization of infinite gems seems too naive. Maybe I can do it later? Luo Bing wasn't disappointed either, because he didn't have much hope, he just tried it out. How far can I do it now? Luo Bing's eyes were suddenly attracted to the mall in the game. Why do I limit my imagination to reality? The items in the game should also be materialized, right? This ability has no logic at all, it is magic, and it is still very high level magic. Although Luo Bing uses any ability without consuming mana. Just like Rashomon, he can summon all day without stopping. At the beginning, there was a cooling time limit, but as he became more and more proficient, this ability was directly mastered by him. Including Sharingan, although Luo Bing got the most basic version, it seems that after long-term use and proficient use, you can also get a high-level version? Even a cracked version? Luo Bing stared at the small blue bottle in the alliance, closed his eyes and painted in his head, including his own understanding of the small blue bottle, such as the attribute of rapid energy recovery, which was also added to it. Crack! The blue liquid wrapped in the crystal bottle fell to the ground and shattered immediately, filling the room with a magical smell. Even Luo Bing's head, which was somewhat cloudy because of the realization of this thing, gradually became sober. It's broken if I'm not careful. Luo Bing rubbed his head, feeling a little depressed. But it seems that there is a bug again. I realized that this thing is just a little heavy, but it recovered immediately after smelling it, which means that this thing can also restore mental power. Isn't that? Do whatever you want, and. Chapter 91. Well, in the end Luo Bing didn't do what he wanted. He only manifested 5 vials of the little blue medicine, and the pain in his brain couldn't stand it anymore. Although the situation improved a lot after drinking a bottle, I felt full of energy, but my head was still a little drowsy. Although it was not so exaggerated, there was always a feeling of drowsiness. Luo Bing hasn't felt this kind of mental problem for a long time since he got the immortal body. It's a very magical experience. Obviously the body is not full, I feel that the pore of the whole body is sucking in the roar, but the head still can't help but feel drowsy. It seems that this thing can only achieve the effect of refreshing and restoring energy, and cannot restore spiritual power at all. Maybe I can materialize a drug that restores psychic power. 3. Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? Luo Bing pondered for a long time, but after all, he didn't think how to realize this idea. The fantasy 793 now needs a reference. Whether it is in reality or in the game, mental power is a very vague term. What's more, the idea of using the same amount of mental power to materialize more mental power recovery medicines is a bit naive, which doesn't seem realistic or magical at all. In a drowsy state, Luo Bing fell into sleep. That night, Luo Bing had 2 consecutive dreams. It may be due to the sequelae of the drowsy head and the chaotic dreams. Luo Bing is not sure whether it is a precognition dream. In his first dream, he saw a leather-clad warrior on a skateboard fighting a little Spider-Man over a rundown of Queens. It is possible that this dream was a precognition dream. After all, a familiar character appeared in the dream. The second dream was a bit cloudy. He saw a middle-aged white man with white temples climbing Mount Everest. This is kind of weird. What does climbing Everest have to do with his foreknowledge? What's on Mount Everest? Isn't it Snow Mountain? Luo Bing, who woke up in the morning, didn't think about it so much. Anyway, what should happen will always happen. He thought he disrupted the development of precognitive dreams, but he didn't expect it to coincide in a clever way. What Luo Bing saw was just a fragment. This clip contains too little information to know whether the future will be good or bad. But Luo Bing didn't bother so much. Soldiers came to block people, and water came to tune. He once saw a black hole burst open on the top of Stark Building's head, and a large number of aliens ran in. So what should I do? Tear down the Stark Building? None of these things can solve the problem. Luo Bing is a power supremacy. As long as he is strong enough, everything is a turkey. Taking out his mobile phone, Luo Bing sent a message to Peter, asking him to pay attention to the figure flying up to the sky on a skateboard in his daily life, which may cause him a lot of trouble. Peter also just got up to brush his teeth and wash his teeth, and inexplicably replied, "Brother Luo, aren't you the one who flew to the sky on a skateboard? You used to skate on glass rails a lot, and the glass was transparent, so it looked like you were flying on a skateboard." Luo Bing, all right. It looks like he has inadvertently inspired some kind of genius who wants to die. But Luo Bing can't bear this pot. Peter has become more reliable now, and Luo Bing believes he can handle this problem. Glancing at the phone, there are still more than a dozen unread letters on the social software. It was sent to him by the guy with the ID Queen. The signal was interrupted just now. "Damn, Queen, let me out, come right back and lick my toes, I can still forgive you, Queen. Damn, are you listening? Queen, did you get the message?" Queen, the guy sent a lot of messages, and from his hot-tempered attitude and details, Luo Bing had already decided that this guy was the woman he met in hell. Luo Bing rolled his eyes. There are so many magical operations of the boss, and he can even surf the internet in hell. He didn't pay attention at all. Luo Bing didn't show any pity in the face of such a wicked woman. Just leave that woman in hell. Hell suits her. It's just that Luo Bing, who saw the last few articles, immediately laughed unkindly. The woman named Hella also seemed to sense that she was begging in a low voice, so she began to speak kind words. "Brother Robin, please help me, people are bored here, the acid rain is coming again, I was wrong, it's so cold, so lonely. Brother Robin, are you here? I want to eat the barbecue you make, I swear I will never yell at you again, come and take me away." Queen. For some reason, Luo Bing felt a little relieved when he saw the woman begging him in a low voice. So he edited a text message and replied, "Why? We don't know each other, I'm not Robin." After sending the text message, Luo Bing laughed out loud. He just wanted to be angry with this woman, who made her proud like a swan. "You deserve it, you still have the face to call my brother? Who knows how many thousand years old you are? Not scary." After sending the message, Luo Bing received a reply instantly, thinking that this woman had been standing by her phone, afraid that she had not slept at all and had been waiting for him all night. For these big guys, going without sleep for a few months is nothing at all. "You're alive. Come and take me away." Queen, is this woman a repeater? Is this word over and over again? Luo Bing ignored it, and just wanted to put the phone in his clothes pocket, but the other party sent another message. However, this is a picture message. Hella in the picture is unexpectedly tender, with big eyes and watery eyes, which is a good expression pack. I don't know how much determination she made to get the courage to take this photo. Luo Bing ignored it, he wouldn't be moved by a simple picture. But after the next few pictures were sent, Luo Bing really couldn't stand it anymore. This is so special. Who taught her? 5.0 even sent fruit photos to himself. Shit. Definitely, not the full fruit, but the half-covered one is more exciting to watch. Especially Luo Bing, a young man who had never experienced a relationship between a man and a woman, immediately reacted when he saw this scene. 6635-I am not Robin Demon Girl. Luo Bing murmured secretly, and backhanded one to save it locally and report it. Not long after, the system robot prompted the other party to be banned for 3 hours for posting bad photos. Luo Bing's ears were clear, he felt refreshed throughout his body, he concentrated and calmed down. The good buddy returned to normal. He took a cold shower and put on a black trench coat. Although the Wuxiao immortal body does not need to take a bath, I still feel unaccustomed to it. Open the space door at will. He and Miss Polaris have another appointment today. Chapter 92. Dilapidated Queens, Polaris exerts his ability under Luo Bing's attention. She can control metal. To be more precise, she should be able to control the surrounding magnetic field, but because of the ability of awakening, her ability to controlling magnetic field is still very weak, and currently she can only pull some metal products to fly. Such as small flying darts. Like yesterday's situation is a potential explosion. She successfully stopped a bullet. The super ability of Polaris is very potential. In this era of hot weapons rampant, when she becomes proficient in the future, she will be very terrifying when she encounters the army or war when she masters the magnetic field ability, and she can completely defeat 10,000. Drink some water and rest. Luo Bing snapped his fingers, a glass of watermelon juice fell out of nowhere and was caught by him firmly. Luo Bing did not have the magnetic field ability originally, and his training process was more about controlling the situation and preventing accidents. He spends more time familiarizing himself with the realization of his fantasy. Thank you. Polaris blushed, not sure if he was tired or what. She took the watermelon juice from Luo Bing's hand and took a gulp from the straw. 14 Sweet. Polaris narrowed his eyes comfortably. Luo Bing's phone rang. He has been putting this thing in his clothes pocket, but not in the Shinwei space, because there is no signal in the Shinwei space. Happy called and Luo Bing asked him to contact the orphanage where he used to be yesterday. In fact, Luo Bing is so greedy for money for a reason. He used to secretly send the money from his summer job to the orphanage. With more money, Luo Bing directly funded the renovation and expansion of the former orphanage. Now orphanages can accommodate more people and have the best facilities and resources. The dean even hung his picture on the wall and gave him the status of an honorary dean. But Luo Bing doesn't care about this, he is not for honor, he is just to repay his kindness, he is a person who attaches great importance to feelings, and he will remember those who treat him well. Things are arranged, those older children are reluctant to go to the orphanage, but those who are too young can't be taken care of by yourself. Sending to the orphanage is the best choice, Luo Bing said looking at Polaris. Thank you so much. Polaris nodded slightly, thanking him. She really didn't know how to thank Luo Bing, after all, she saved her life, and it was twice. For Polaris, Luo Bing is his hero. At lunchtime, Happy landed in the ruined city with his special plane. Polaris's cooking skills can't be said to be top-notch, but it also makes Luo Bing very satisfied, at least this girl is very careful when she cooks any dishes. If Sky knew Luo Bing's mind would collapse. I'm also very attentive. Why don't you see me complimenting me? In fact, the reason for this is very simple. Luo Bing and Sky are so familiar that they don't need praise at all. Sometimes it may be like this, the more familiar people feel, the less polite they are, and sometimes there are occasional quarrels. Humans are really strange animals, and emotions are even more troublesome. Harvey took 13 young children away, and only 2 14-year-old boys expressed that they did not want to go to the orphanage at all. Polaris was a little worried, but also to say goodbye, Luo Bing accompanied her to fly to Chinatown by plane. In fact, Luo Bing has not been on a plane for a long time after obtaining the space ability. Definitely. He also hasn't been back in Chinatown for a long time. As soon as he got off the plane, the dean greeted him warmly. The construction team that Happy hired was building very fast, and the orphanage was different from what it used to be, and its population was almost 5 times larger than before. This is nothing to be proud of. This means that the world is not peaceful, and the number of orphans is gradually increasing. In fact, the surge in population in the past few days is due to the last biochemical lizard man crisis in Queens. All orphanages in New York are basically full. Otherwise, there will be no orphans living on the streets. Luo Bing, I sincerely thank you for everything you have done to the orphanage. Your child has grown up in an instant and has become a superhero. It really brings glory to our orphanage. The dean is an old man over 70 years old, and he is probably the only one in this world who is qualified to talk to Luo Bing as an elder. This is what I should do. Luo Bing smiled shyly, feeling somewhat praised. Isn't there any trouble in Chinatown recently? Luo Bing asked aloud. No, it's just that there are a lot of tourists, and they keep coming here to learn what kind of kung fu of the celestial dynasty. The old man sighed. Not every celestial person knows celestial kung fu. Seriously speaking, Luo Bing is going to take the blame again. Oh, by the way, one more thing, do you remember the number 1 bust in Chinatown? The old man asked aloud. Tang Ren? That guy who claims to be a detective? Luo Bing asked with a frown. He wasn't very impressed, he just thought that guy had a strong ability to be funny. He really made a name for himself recently and solved a big case, but anyone with a discerning eye knows that it is the credit of his distant cousin. The old man shook his head and smiled bitterly. That guy hasn't found a serious job yet. Luo Bing was speechless, and then stopped paying attention. Polaris said goodbye to the children who had gathered in the past 2 days. After seeing the people and things in the orphanage, she was completely relieved. 2 older children who were reluctant to stay in an orphanage were sent to school by Happy. If nothing else, they will become an employee of the Stark Group in the future. 793 Polaris was alone, and suddenly relaxed, carefree, and a little confused. Just move in and live with me. I also have a roommate. The house is too big to live in. Queens is still a bad environment. Even if there is no pollution, the infection rate of heat death is very high. Luo Bing looked at Polaris in front of her, her green hair very nice. Well, but what can I do for you? Polaris opened his eyes wide and looked at Luo Bing. If the relationship between the two is closer, maybe there is no need to think about it so much. But now, their relationship is nothing but good friends. Maybe you can join my logistics team, another roommate of mine does this. Luo Bing made a random excuse. In fact, he couldn't figure out what he was thinking, but he just felt that doing so was in line with his mind. Then, well, maybe I can use my super ability to fight criminals like you do. Polaris' eyes lit up. Great idea, maybe we can become a duo or something, Luo Bing nodded. In school, little Spider-Man, who wanted to be a duo with Luo Bing, shed tears of sadness. How are you doing this? So sad. It's not fair. Chapter 93. In the evening, Malibu Shore 10086, Tony and his family gathered at Luo Bing's castle. Pepper looked at Sky beside him. Sky looked at Polaris beside him. Polaris looked at Luo Bing. Luo Bing looked at Tony and shrugged. You, take out the bomb fragments in your heart as soon as possible. Even if you are wearing steel armor, this cool girl by my side can wave your hand and kill you right away. Luo Bing isn't a threat, it's a fact. Polaris' ability just beats Tony. Tony had a bitter look on his face, he wasn't a timid dead man. On the contrary, he never feared death. But, it doesn't mean that he is willing to lie on the operating table and let others decide his own life and death. If that person is someone he trusts, that's fine. Tony never trusted those doctors, which kept him from making up his mind. It's a pity that the most famous doctor in the world, Dr. Strange, had a car accident. His hands are already disabled and he can't do any surgery. He is now running all over the country to find a doctor who can heal his hands. I heard that the guy has used up almost all his property now and has started to sell cars and houses. If Polaris had never appeared, Tony might not have realized it for a long time, but now, the sudden appearance of the pretty girl with green hair was bad news for Tony. If there is one, there will be a second. Who knows if there will be people with controlled magnetism in the future? If there is, bad luck or an enemy, isn't he dead? Tony didn't like the feeling that fate was always in someone else's hands and turned off. He was in such a bad mood that he couldn't even eat the delicate dinner on the table. Is there any safe way? Pepper bit his lip and looked at Tony miserably. Yes. Luo Bing nodded, and naturally caught a crystal bottle filled with bright red liquid from the air. I knew you had a way. Love you. Tony grabbed the bottle excitedly and confessed aloud. Luo Bing had a black line on his face. The little pepper next to him silently rolled his eyes. How do I use this thing? What is this? Is it an alien product? Tony looked at the crystal bottle in his hand curiously. Under the refraction of the light, the crystal bottle was crystal clear, and the red liquid inside was emitting a streamer, which looked like a very extraordinary. This thing allows you to quickly heal wounds and replenish vitality. You only need to let Polaris quickly pull out the fragments in your heart, and then you can drink it. Luo Bing explained. He has already done experiments. This little red medicine has greatly supplemented Luo Bing's lack of medical treatment, and it is very effective. He used this medicine during the day to cure an old orphanage worker who had a broken leg. Amazing! Is this thing vampire blood? Tony jumped up in surprise. He asked because the decoration in Luo Bing Castle was very vampire. The black bat, the knife and fork with blood, not only does not feel depressed, but has a mysterious style. Vampire. Fart, have you ever played games? Do you know about the blue returning medicine, the blood returning medicine? Luo Bing asked in an easy-to-understand manner. Hey? Is there such a thing? Tony's eyes widened. Similar, almost, I have tried the effect of this thing. I used it to cure an uncle who had been in a wheelchair for 10 years during the day, Luo Bing said relaxedly. Then can't we start a pharmaceutical company? It's a miracle drug. Tony got excited. How bad do you think this thing is? Luo Bing looked at Tony with a black face. If he really wants to mass-produce this thing, he guarantees that his brain will be burned out. I knew you were the best for me, haha. Tony laughed, holding the bottle in his hand carefully, lest one accidentally knock it over. It's better to start now, the shrapnel in the body is always a hidden danger, Luo Bing said, looking at Polaris beside him. Are you sure? Well, I can feel the shrapnel in his body. Polaris nodded. She had a task to do as soon as she came here. She was very happy, and felt that she did not live up to Luo Bing's expectations for her. Wait, give me a break. Tony took a deep roar. It's simple to say, but the shrapnel is very close to his heart, and he needs a lot of courage to complete the operation. Pepper, take the medicine, and pour him into Tony's mouth as soon as the shrapnel is taken out. We will strive for a one-time success. Luo Bing gave a serious order. Okay. Little Pepper nodded earnestly, and immediately did as Luo Bing said, took out the red crystal bottle from Tony's hand, and carefully unscrewed the cap. When the lid was unscrewed, a special gas floated out. It smelled very intoxicated, and the pores all over the body relaxed. Wait. What does it mean to strive for a one-time success? I can't last twice in this situation. Tony had a black line on his face, inexplicably panicked in his heart. Don't talk nonsense, just lie down and lie down. Luo Bing didn't explain much, and no one knew about his time ability. Okay. Tony shut his mouth honestly, he trusted Luo Bing very much. Do you need an anesthesia needle? Pepper asked nervously. I think, I might need. Tony was sweating coldly, although he could bear the pain, but it wasn't necessary at all, and it wasn't that he couldn't afford anesthesia needles. Some special operations are not allowed to use anesthesia, but now this is not an operation. I'll have Happy deliver it right away, Pepper said, looking up and calling Roar Friday. It doesn't need to be that troublesome. Luo Bing waved his hand. He didn't even have a physical anesthesia needle. He patted Tony's neck lightly, and the physical anesthesia was used. Thor rolled his eyes and fainted. Let's do it now, Luo Bing said, making room. Little Chili wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. This is really not troublesome. Polaris walked up to Tony, his hands glowing with greenery. He first manipulated the magnetic force to draw out the small energy device in Tony's chest, then closed his eyes and carefully perceived the metal shrapnel in Stark's chest. Puff puff. Everything came so suddenly. The shrapnel shot out of Tony's chest instantly, hitting the ceiling above his head. A lot of blood splattered the little pepper. Without Luo Bing's command, Xiao Chili quickly poured a whole bottle of blood recovery medicine into Tony's mouth. A miracle happened soon. The blood that was originally spurting out of the shrapnel stopped instantly. Shortly afterward, Tony's pitted wound glowed green and began to heal quickly. It looks like I don't need a second chance. Luo Bing breathed a sigh of relief. The little pepper on the side watched anxiously. Soon Tony opened his eyes and looked like he was okay. How do you feel? Luo Bing asked. Except for a little neck pain, everything else is fine. Wait. The operation is over. Stark's eyes widened, not expecting everything to happen so quickly. Zhao good, even the hands on the wrist turned for less than a minute. It seems to be all right, he can still feel the pain in his neck. Xiao Chili breathed a sigh of relief and finally felt relieved. Polaris and Sky on the side also played with a sigh of relief. The situation just now was too tense, and the blood was sprayed 1 meter high. Fortunately, they were far away, otherwise they would definitely be splashed like a small pepper. But the little pepper doesn't care about that at all. What surprised her was that the small red bottle that Luo Bing took out had an amazing effect, and even the big hole in Tony's chest was filled, which was simply a magical scene. Did I just get hit? Tony touched his neck and looked at Luo Bing with a black line on his face. I don't know, you may be hallucinating. Luo Bing shook his head. The 3 women beside her smirked and shook their heads. Tony rolled his eyes, looked at the blue-lit reactor on the table beside him, and looked at the shrapnel on the ceiling above his head, and let out a long breath. This is not the end of Iron Man. For Tony, this is a new beginning. Chapter 94. The Malibu coast is thoroughly buzzing. To welcome the arrival of Polaris. Also to celebrate Stark's new life, Tony threw huge amounts of parties here with Luo Bing's approval. Definitely, he only invited some common acquaintances over, outsiders, including the media, do not know the real residents of Tony and Luo Bing. The sky is full of firework blooming in the sky. Steve looked at the rising firework in the night sky in confusion, not quite used to the scene. But for an old man who has been frozen for 70 years, his mentality is already very optimistic, at least he won't be curious about what this is and what that is. In the past 2 days, he secretly supplemented a lot of knowledge. I also went to the hospital to meet my old friend Carter for the last time. The other party was very calm and did not seem to blame him for being 70 years late. It's just that Steve is very confused, the dance he promised may never be realized in this life. Cool little Spider-Man swings on the cruise ship, he's never been to such a great party. As a high school student who couldn't drink yet, he held a big bag of popcorn in his hand and looked enviously at the group of people drinking together below. Occasionally it's good to get together like this. Luo Bing raised the goblet in his hand, even though he was also a minor. But what about 793 him? Right, last time I was in Queens, I said it was a dinner party, but it's not too late. Stark raised his goblet angrily to clink glasses with the people around him. My name is Barton, sorry I didn't join you last time. Barton raised his goblet and drank it down. Natasha Romanoff stared wide-eyed at Polaris, then at Sky. Obviously she didn't expect that guy Luo Bing to be a treasure in a golden house. Or two. The girls gathered together and didn't know what they were talking about, while the boys were drinking happily on the side. But obviously with Luo Bing's physique, he won't get drunk. Basically everyone came that day, but unfortunately Luo Bing didn't find Matthew. Daredevil doesn't seem to like this kind of group activity. I think it's better to have this kind of party alone in the future, it's better not to bring women along, Tony muttered in a low voice, as if he was thinking something bad again. I tell you, this month's cover girl looks really good, Tony vowed. Tony! Pepper yelled from the side. Tony shrugged helplessly, turned around and smiled apologetically. Ha 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 ha. A group of people laughed. Now the media has given us, Bafa, a group of people a lot of team names. I think we really need to discuss a name as soon as possible, or we'll all be led astray soon. Tony put away his Playboy style and changed the subject with a cough. First of all, the Iron Legion is impossible. Luo Bing rejected Tony's idea in one sentence. Veteran Roar is even more unreliable. Tony's face darkened. Justice League is pretty good, but it always feels a little inconsistent, Steve said seriously. It's a little inappropriate to talk about justice all day. Luo Bing nodded. Where's the Spider Family, where's the Spider Family? Peter fell on the swing excitedly. Eat your popcorn, you're just a reservist. Luo Bing slapped Little Spider-Man mercilessly. Little Spider-Man shrugged helplessly and continued eating his own popcorn. Today everyone is not wearing their own gear and is very casual. I predicted the alien battle in New York, which may be inevitable. In that small clip, I saw a lot of pictures, but it seems that our partners are not only these, there is also a green fat man, who initiated the "it's scary to be crazy." Luo Bing hesitation said the future he saw. Although he only saw a small part, it wasn't comprehensive, and he didn't know how that happened, and he didn't see how it ended. But one day it will come. Warriors of Earth need to be mentally prepared. What kind of aliens are they? Steve asked seriously, they knew more or less that Luo Bing had a predictable super ability. Steve also only recently learned about the concept of aliens. It looks strange, a bit like a bug, stepping on a flight device and holding a weapon that can emit lasers, Luo Bing recalled carefully. Tony frowned. If only I knew the exact time. Luo Bing shook his head. He also doesn't know when this will happen. Maybe in a year or two, maybe in a few months. Everything is unclear. It is because of this unknown that it is often more worrying. Luo Bing accurately described what he saw, including the location and quantity. The crowded alien army frowned upon hearing that. I saw an interesting team name from Fury's plan, maybe we can apply it, Luo Bing said. What is it? Captain America asked curiously. Avengers. Barton had heard Fury say it, and he was part of the plan early on. I don't like SHIELD. We do it ourselves, and we leave all operational logistics to our major shareholders after all. He's richer than me now, and I work for him all the time. Tony looked at Luo Bing. Luo Bing shrugged and said that he didn't care. His own original purpose was to set up an independent team, and he did not need anyone to supervise it. I agree. Little Spider-Man was the first enthusiastic sign up. I'm fine. Steve nodded, and after learning of the crisis he would encounter in the future, he also felt that one person couldn't deal with those monsters, and he still needed a team. What about you, Barton? Luo Bing looked at the silent Hawkeye. But I'm the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, he said with some hesitation. Who is not? Me too, but this is not a conflict, it should be a superhero club, but our responsibility is to resist the invasion of alien species, Luo Bing explained. Okay, I'll join. Barton, absent from the hesitation, raised his right hand. Okay, why don't you think about the name Iron Legion? I think it's super cool. Tony pursed his lips aside. Luo Bing has a black line, this guy just wants to show off? Why don't you say it's called the She-Stark Legion? Tony smiled awkwardly and raised his right hand. The Avengers are here. The crowd seemed to have forgotten Natasha Romanoff on the side during the discussion, but she was later added in the announcement. The current members are Luo Bing, Tony, Steve, Barton, Natasha Romanoff. Reserves have Little Spider-Man, and Polaris. Both of them still need a lot of exercise to get acquainted with their super abilities, at least they haven't really grown up yet. But one day will come sooner or later. When he was at night, all the rising Avengers lay on the ground except Luo Bing and the Zero-transformed Steve, without exception. Even the ladies drank happily and looked intoxicated. Alas! If only I were drunk, can I really count on these guys to save the world? Steve shook his head aside. Looking at the mess in front of him, Luo Bing silently helped his forehead. The boy was fine with him, he pulled it onto the sofa and finished. What should the girls do? Chapter 95. Look at the drunk unconscious ladies in front of you. Just when Luo Bing was frowning, there was a sudden sound in my head. Sign in successfully. Today's ability Super Invincible Sobering Technique of the Secret of Bacchus Wang Liangqian's Cup Not Getting Drunk has been delivered. Please enjoy it as much as you like. Luo Bing, 55. Is it 12 o'clock at night so soon? It's over, I had so much fun today that I forgot to turn on my lucky halo. Why doesn't the phone alarm clock go off? Oh, by the way, the original mobile phone is left in hell, and the current one hasn't had time to set the alarm clock. Luo Bing was speechless, and wasted another ability position. The number of broken words refreshed today is so long, you can tell just by looking at the ending, this is another bad skill. But, it's quite fitting. I'll take these people out, and the lady will leave it to you. The sea wind here is too strong, you will catch a cold, Steve said, carrying two on one shoulder, and walked towards the lounge of the cruise ship. Okay, Luo Bing agreed. With this sobering technique, he doesn't have to mind so much, let the lady sober up and handle it by herself. As for those big men, just faint when they are dizzy. Luo Bing came to Sky and patted her head with his hand, using the sobering technique. But Sky just murmured, but there seemed to be no sign of waking up. Is this skill bad? Luo Bing thought to himself. He came to Polaris again and patted her on the head. Polaris rolled over and didn't seem to be waking up either. Have you seen the ghost? Luo Bing's ability has never been in such a situation, and the introduction of the ability clearly says let the drunk sober up. He walked over to Natasha Romanoff suspiciously and patted her on the head. What the hell, this ability really doesn't work. Luo Bing didn't believe in evil, and patted Xiao Chili on the head again. Well, the headache is gone, it's so relaxing. Pepper woke up with a yawn. Luo Bing looked at the three people who were still pretending to be drunk with a dark face, his face was speechless. Is it fun to pretend to be drunk? It's not that there is something wrong with his own abilities, it's that these three people are pretending to be drunk. They all drank a lot of alcohol, and I guess they all slept until noon tomorrow. Well, I'll settle Ms. Natasha Romanoff, you can send these two back to the castle. Little Pepper stroked her long hair, her eyes rolled and she didn't know what she was thinking. All right. Luo Bing didn't reveal it either. He put his hands on Sky's and Polaris' shoulders, and the three of them disappeared instantly. Roar! Little Pepper let out a long breath and patted his chest. Natasha Romanoff woke up tactfully resentful. What did you say they were going to do tonight? Natasha Romanoff asked, rolling her eyes, somewhat appetizing. Haha, how do I know? Anyway, that's all I can help Sky. I hope that guy Luo Bing can give some strength. The relationship between them is about to pierce that layer of window paper. A Little Pepper is a sensible person, shrugging. Shrugged. But the three of them. Natasha Romanoff was speechless. No way, it doesn't matter to me anyway. Pepper shrugged and smiled wickedly. I don't think that guy is taking advantage of someone's danger. Natasha Romanoff shook her head, she hadn't been drinking too much, she just pretended to be drunk. This wine doesn't work? Why don't you feel anything at all? Natasha Romanoff asked suspiciously. Me too, I was a little drunk at first, but now I'm sober all of a sudden, probably because of the sea breeze. There is a room on the cruise ship, you can find a place to rest, I'll take care of Tony, that guy doesn't know how drunk he is, Pepper said, and left the deck. Ugh! Natasha Romanoff glanced at the sky in the distance, not knowing what to say. Luo Bing is not a virtuous person. What's more, he knew in his heart that these two girls were not drunk at all, and he had no idea what to do. Luo Bing threw the two of them on a bed, covered them with the quilt, yawned and went to sleep. He didn't even think about making fun of such a boring thing as the two girls. Go back to the house and fall asleep. Sky and Polaris were embarrassed. The two were facing each other, pretending to be drunk, Roar's hot air splashed on each other's faces, and they were very embarrassed. But pretending to be drunk and embarrassed to be sober can only continue to pretend like this. The next morning, when Luo Bing woke up, he saw two women sleeping soundly, hugging each other like octopus, shrugging his shoulders with a helpless expression. Watch out for sleep, girls. Luo Bing went out for a morning run and happened to bump into Natasha Romanoff, who was stretching on the beach. You woke up so early. Luo Bing made a move. Roar. His morning run was 10 laps along the coast. Luo Bing never slackens his physical training. After 10 laps, it is basically an hour. After all, the sea is too big. For ordinary people, let alone 10 laps, I am afraid that one lap will take a whole day. Seeking flowers 0. I'm not as leisurely as you, I still have a task, I'll be leaving soon. Natasha Romanoff glanced at Luo Bing unexpectedly, her eyes slightly subtle. Where are the two girls? She asked casually. I'm still asleep, like a pig. Luo Bing shrugged, his eyes helpless. Yesterday was a good opportunity, you didn't do anything. Natasha Romanoff laughed wickedly, as if joking. Do I have such a bad impression in your mind? Luo Bing was speechless, with a black line on his face. Natasha Romanoff laughed, the two chatted for a moment, and ran around the coastline together. Roar roar, I can't do it anymore, you are a monster. Natasha Romanoff lay lazily on the golden beach, the sun rose, the morning light fell on her, and the crystal sweat reflected the bright light. Drink a bottle of water. Luo Bing snapped his fingers and handed over a bottle of beverage. Gudong gudong. Natasha Romanoff took the water without hesitation and drank it. If only every day was as comfortable as these 2 days, the woman murmured while lying on the beach, looking at the dawn on the other side of the water and sky. There will be that day. Luo Bing shrugged, he is different from others, he has never worried about the wonderful tomorrow, he is just looking forward to what he can do. Well, sure, but we'll all be out of work by then. Big local tyrant, you may be able to support me by then. Natasha Romanoff joked. If you eat too much, I will never raise you. Luo Bing looked serious. Ha 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 ha. Natasha Romanoff laughed without being a goddess at all. Luo Bing pursed his lips and smiled, looking at the dawn in the sky. At this moment his heart was also very relaxed. It's good to slow down the pace of life occasionally. But All this is just an illusion. In the silent space of nothingness and death, Black Dwarf, one of the 5 obsidian generals holding a giant axe, looked at the man who fell from the air in front of him, frowned, and then woke him up, waving the axe around his neck. Above. I'm not dead. Loki opened his eyes in confusion. Humph, you're lucky, Odin's son. Black Dwarf curled his lips and immediately reported the matter to the leader, Thanos. On the other hand, Doctor Strange really embarks on his journey of redemption and Chapter 96. Mr. Luo Bing, there are 2 emails sent to you, do you need me to read them? Friday's sweet voice echoed in the castle. After the morning run, Luo Bing took a cold shower and heard the news as soon as he sat down. Email. Luo Bing poured a cup of coffee, and then there was some surprise who would send him an email. Okay, Mr. Luo Bing, the content of the first email is, Brother, is the picture sent to you good yesterday? People think you can't sleep, come and accompany me. Friday used sweet the artificial intelligence voice said. Crack. Polaris and Sky, who had just woken up to take a shower, shattered the tooth cups in their hands, and they all took out their heads and looked at Luo Bing strangely. Shut up! Luo Bing cried out in exasperation. Zitzai. The operation stopped on Friday, and the entire 793 hall instantly dimmed. We didn't hear anything. Sky shook his head and smiled kindly. Luo Bing was silent instead. Not because of the embarrassment just now. Rather, he found out that his shut-up ability could even stop the AI? What kind of weirdness is this? 10 seconds passed in a blink of an eye, Friday returned to normal, and the entire hall instantly lit up. Sorry sir, I didn't expect this to violate your privacy, would you like to read the next email? Asked again in a sweet voice Friday. Read it, definitely have to read it, I guess there will be something interesting to happen, right? Sky looked at Luo Bing with interest before the bubble burst down. Polaris kept her head down and said nothing, though she was just curious. What's there to read? That guy is a crazy woman I know in hell, and now he's harassing me all day and asking me to save her. It's that simple. Luo Bing was speechless. It was an absolutely stupid decision for him to leave his cell phone to a woman. Hell? Is there really such a place? Is there a ghost there? Polaris asked curiously. A man's mouth is a liar. Sky rolled his eyes dejectedly, feeling more and more that there was something tricky about it. Continue to the next one. Luo Bing was helpless, there was nothing to hide. Okay, Mr. Luo Bing, Friday's obedient response. The email that followed was strange, definitely not the kind of weird thing Sky was expecting to hear. The content is only 1 line of address, and the coordinates are Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, a place called Kamartaj, which is close to the largest mountain range in the Himalayas. It is a prosperous but vicissitudes of life city. Did you send all the rendezvous locations? Sky rolled his eyes and spat out a few words between his teeth. I said that the woman is in hell, and the 2 emails were not sent by the same person at all? Kamartaj, I heard about Odin, it seems to be the headquarters of Earth Magician. Luo Bing frowned. After hearing about Magician from Asgard, he also curiously searched for it with the 10th level agent authority. But obviously, he never got any useful intel from the S.H.I.E.L.D. database. Definitely this time is no exception. In a simple conversation with Odin, Luo Bing learned that the Earth Magician is mainly responsible for maintaining the peace of the magical world, and several of the Sorcerer Supremes have been friends with Odin. But, why should this term Sorcerer Supreme contact himself? Hasn't the magic world never matched reality? Does the other party think he is also a magician? But Luo Bing's bizarre ability looks like a magician. Don't ask questions, I'll take you to hell another day and you'll know, that woman is a lunatic, Luo Bing said, and the Shinwei space slowly opened. He needs to go to Nepal to really see what Kamartaj is. I don't want to go to hell, come back soon, Sky called. Understood. Luo Bing made a perfunctory sound and slowly disappeared into the vortex. As ability became more and more proficient, he had abandoned the method of summoning wooden doors to pass through. The combination of Shinwei space and Professor Du's teleportation would be more convenient for quick access. The power of space has many complementary aspects. Kathmandu. This is the most prosperous city in Nepal, no one. Nepal is a country with frequent riots, and the current situation has created the chaotic status quo of the country. Even in the most prosperous city, there are many low-rise prefab buildings. There are a lot of people here, and people of all colors and skins are constantly busy with their day-to-day lives. Relatively speaking, the technology here is relatively backward, but it is the birthplace of many myths and stories. It is definitely indispensable. There are many temples here. It can be said that there are basically temples everywhere. The local people here believe in different gods, and there are almost hundreds of gods with names and historical stories. Luo Bing was walking on this quaint street, but no one around him recognized him. Flocks of pigeons are flying in the streets. If it weren't for the chaos, this would definitely be a great place for a sightseeing tour. So what I saw was not Mount Everest, but the Himalayas, Luo Bing muttered, looking up at the snow-capped mountains in the distance, and shrugging. Well, this isn't the first time he's admitted something wrong. He had mistaken the diamond before. Who made this kind of thing look the same? The shaggy-faced performer was climbing the Himalayas, maybe Kamartaj was at the top. 35 Luo Bing frowned, looking at the vast mountain in front of him. For a while he couldn't recognize which one it was. I always feel like each one is alike. Hello, do you know Kamartaj? The man in sackcloth with tangled hair constantly asks like every passerby around him. Luo Bing's ears moved, and even though they were far apart, he heard the keywords Kamartaj. He turned to look. Then his eyes lit up, a little surprised. The man not far away was exactly the guy he saw in the prophecy dream. It's just that his current dress is not so 5.0 performance art, at most it is just a little down. If every prophecy I make is a story, then this guy must be the protagonist this time. Luo Bing slowly followed, maybe this man could take him to the legendary Kamartaj. Hey, hand over all your money. In the alley, Dr. Strange looked at the ferocious robbers in front of him, and raised his hands in panic. No, I'm out of money, I have to spend all my money on plane tickets. It's a very familiar scene. Luo Bing rolled his eyes and sighed. Wouldn't the criminals in this world change their lines? He stepped forward. At the same time, a young man wearing a special robe and a hood also walked over from the other side of the alley. Chapter 97. It happened very quickly. Just when Strange was about to be beaten, the black-robed man appeared in time and dealt with the group of people. Luo Bing watched with interest. Is this a local homegrown hero? Or is it magician? Hello, Mr. Luo Bing, we finally meet. Moro ignored Strange's thanks, walked to Luo Bing in 2 steps, and nodded slightly. Please give me an accurate positioning before sending an email next time. There is no such place as Kamartaj in my navigation, Luo Bing said angrily to the other party. This is our negligence. I didn't expect you to come so quickly. Moro smiled embarrassedly, scratched his head, and took off his magician hood. Wait. You're a night-night. I know you. Strange suddenly screamed excitedly. In fact, during these times of car accident medical treatment, although he has been busy all over the world treating his hands, he definitely knows something about the superhero who report on the daily NEWS 14. I heard you were looking for Kamartaj. Mordo asked Strange, turning his head back. No more, that. Mr. Robin, do you have any way to heal my hands? I'm Strange, used to be the best surgeon in the world, in fact I've been looking for you, it's a pity I don't have any way to contact you. Strange looked at Luo Bing admiringly. If there is a person in this world who can heal his hands, it must be the man in front of him. And the image of superhero is tall in everyone's heart. Compared with the illusory Kamartaj, Strange is more willing to believe in the hero in everyone's heart. Mordo frowned, which was different from what Sorcerer Supreme said. If Strange had his hands healed, wouldn't Sorcerer Supreme's plans be disrupted? Oh? I think I heard Stark say your name. It's really unfortunate that a legendary doctor like you lost both hands in an accident, but don't worry, I just happen to have a cure for your hands. Luo Bing smiled. For him, it was just a little effort, and the other party was his fan, so it was fine if he didn't meet him. Since the other party made a request, he could also help himself. Great! Strange exclaimed excitedly, he was waiting for this day. Wait! Mordo exclaimed. Afterwards, he came to Luo Bing's side with a settled expression and whispered something. Luo Bing frowned, looked at Mordo, and then at Strange who was excited in front of him. He shook his head at Strange in hesitation. This magician friend beside me said there is a better way to heal your hands. Magician friend? A better way? Strange didn't doubt what Luo Bing said, but was a little shocked by what he heard. He, who has been dealing with technology all day, never thought that there would still be magicians in this world. It's all messed up. Mo sighed, feeling helpless in his heart. Originally in Sorcerer Supreme's plan, teaching and leading Strange was a huge project. I just didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Let's go to Camartage with me, Mo said, and nodded towards Luo Bing. Although it was different from the expected picture, the result was acceptable to him. He subtly left all kinds of clues to guide Strange to the magician holy place. Judging from the results, his goal was still achieved. Moro led the way ahead, walked to a very inconspicuous house, and opened the door. It seems that this is the space gate. Luo Bing walked in without hesitation. Although Strange was at a loss, with Luo Bing by his side, he didn't feel any nervousness, and followed him in. Outside the door and inside the door are completely two worlds. After passing through the door, Luo Bing felt the transformation of the spatial nodes, and he was already at the top of a mountain in the Himalayas. You are here. Ancient One magician sitting at the tea table smiled kindly and looked at the three people in front of him. Mordo bowed and nodded. Sorcerer Supreme's place in his heart was noble. Sit, Ancient One said, and two chairs automatically flew behind Luo Bing and Strange. Is this magic? Or a mechanism? Strange looked at the chair behind him in disbelief, and sat down hesitation. It seems that you are the boss here. Luo Bing lay down on the chair without any hesitation, with his legs on the wooden table in front of him. Don't be disrespectful to magician. Mo saw this scene, his expression changed immediately, and he roared. Pa Luo Bing snapped his fingers lightly. Mo, who was about to say something, immediately closed his mouth tightly together, and could no longer make any sound. Nice magic. It doesn't seem to be as simple as keeping people's mouths shut. It seems that I didn't find the wrong person. Ancient One smiled gently, not minding Luo Bing's rude behavior at all, and waved his hand. Mo, who was beside him, was reluctant. Back down. Hello, Luo Bing magician, my name is Ancient One, I am the Asgardian of the magical world on Earth at this stage. In fact, I have no ill intentions. This time I invite you to come here to ask for your help. Luo Bing spread his hands. You may have misunderstood, I am not a magician, and I have nothing to help you. Ancient One smiled and shook his head. Although you don't have a magical aura, what you cast is magic. Then she turned to look at Stellan 793 Chi, who was beside her, nodded and smiled back. Strange didn't know what all this was about, and nodded shyly in return. Snapped. Ancient One placed a light palm on Strange's body, and suddenly, a soul that ordinary people could not see emerged from Strange's body. What happened? Where am I? Who is this guy? Strange looked at his hands in disbelief, his body floated in the air involuntarily, and asked, pointing to his body under him. Ancient One smiled apologetically at him, then looked at Luo Bing. I want to invite you two to see something, don't resist, I won't hurt you. With that said, Ancient One slapped Luo Bing lightly again. Then, why did he fall asleep? What are you doing? Luo Bing frowned at the strange bald man in front of him. Hey? How could this be? Ancient One frowned in confusion. Did her spell fail? Please wait for a moment. The Ancient One, who did not believe in evil, used the magic power of his whole body and slapped Luo Bing with a fluttering palm again. Luo Bing, 6695. I thought nuns, monks, and the like, are not masculine. Are you sure you're not eating my tofu? Chapter 98. Luo Bing looked at the old woman in front of him, who had a decent face, but touched his chest twice. What are you doing? It seems, my magic won't work on you. Ancient One looked embarrassed. She had never encountered such a thing. Oh. Luo Bing nodded and finally understood. He just said. This old nun doesn't look like that kind of person. The Wushao immortal body method does not invade. Luo Bing is also the first time to experience this kind of function. Please wait a moment. Ancient One left in a hurry, not knowing where to go. Hey, can you see me? Mr. Robin, Mr. Robin. Strange floated in front of Luo Bing, waving his hands vigorously. Luo Bing frowned subconsciously, as if he sensed something, but there was nothing in front of him. Wacky place. Luo Bing murmured secretly and continued drinking his tea. Not long after, the Ancient One came back wearing the magician artifact Eye of Agamotto. Luo Bing's eyes lit up instantly. He knew it was one of the infinite gems, but he didn't expect to see the second gem so quickly. Please allow me to try again. Ancient One nodded to Luo Bing. Luo Bing agreed, he also wanted to see the function of this infinite gems. Ancient One chanted a spell, the eye of Agamotto slowly opened, and a green light illuminated the entire hall. The eye of Agamotto increased her magic power, and then, she slapped Luo Bing's chest again with lightning speed. Cough cough. Luo Bing choked on the tea he hadn't swallowed. How is this possible? Ancient One's eyes widened, her holding the eye of Agamotto was useless? Just say what you want to say, don't do these bells and whistles. Luo Bing's face was black, and no one would be in a good mood if he was patted 3 times on the chest for no reason. What's more, this old nun is at least 100 years old. If it wasn't for respecting the old and loving the young, Luo Bing would have returned with a slap earlier. You are such an amazing person. Ancient One shook his head and looked at Luo Bing with incredible eyes. Okay, I originally planned to take you to see it for yourself, but if you can't do it, then it's fine. Ancient One said, waved his hand, and drew a few spells in the air. The eye of Agamotto closed, and stirred like his soul was stuffed back into his body again. What the hell is going on? Was I in a soul state just now? Strange slowly woke up and asked in surprise. Luo Bing frowned and listened to the doctor's words, as if something had just happened that he didn't know. Yes, since I can't take you to a real experience from a magical perspective, then I will explain it to you in a scientific way. Ancient One waved his hand, and a magical projection suddenly appeared on Luo Bing and Stellan. In front of Qi. Without the aid of any virtual projection equipment, this place doesn't look like it's going to be that high-tech. Well, this is not scientific at all. Strange looked at this scene in amazement. It's a huge group of galaxies that are constantly spinning. There are many galaxies in this universe, you must all know, but in addition to galaxies, there are many dimensions. Along with Ancient One's narration, the picture began to change in front of Luo Bing and Strange in a kaleidoscope fashion. Among the many dimensions, there is an evil elemental being who constantly grows himself by assimilating other galaxies, and his next target is Earth, Ancient One said. So far away. What is he doing on Earth? Why are all the monsters fighting for Earth? Luo Bing asked with a frown. This doesn't seem reasonable. It's actually for me, to be precise, it's for the magician on Earth. The origin of Dormammu is very complicated. Originally he was a white magician, just like us, but from time to time he constantly fell into the abyss of dark magic, and even turned himself into an elemental life. Only when more white magicians are converted by him can he become more powerful, Ancient One explained. Luo Bing nodded. Strange on the side was listening to the story, and nodded in confusion. In the future I see, you and Strange may be the key players in dealing with Dormammu. I have seen 200 endings, most of which will be destroyed by Dormammu, and only the 2 of you can save the planet. Ancient One looked at Luo Bing seriously. I'm just an ordinary person, and I even have both hands disabled. Dr. Strange shook his head in confusion. I will teach you magic practice, and you will become my disciple, but how far you can reach in the future, whether you can become the character I see, or not, depends entirely on you. And Mr. Luo Bing, as a superhero, you don't want to watch the Earth be destroyed, right? Ancient One smiled and looked at the 2 of them. I don't know how to deal with magical creatures, I'm not a professional, Luo Bing shrugged helplessly. Don't worry, Holy Place's magic library will be open to you. You can learn all the magic you want to learn here. With your magic ability, it shouldn't be difficult. Ancient One opened his mouth and looked at Luo Bing. I really have no magical ability. Luo Bing was ashamed, only he knew his secret. Okay, I'll give it a try. In the end Luo Bing nodded and agreed. The Earth is his residence, anyway, Luo Bing does not allow anyone who wants to destroy the Earth. That's it. Strange, who was eager to try, and Luo Bing, the first 2 big ones, were brought down by magician. That afternoon, Luo Bing looked at the boring magic book and sighed speechlessly. He still doesn't know most of the text above, learn the magic of a fart. Strange loves to study all kinds of words, and Ancient One did not misunderstand anyone. This guy has a very high magical ability, and is simply a wizard of magic. He quickly fell into the magical world in the book. Look at a ghost. Luo Bing lay in the library, covered his face with the magic book in his hand, and took a nap. How could I have hope for this kind of guy? Magician really sees the wrong person. Mordo, who was Strange's surly stage instructor, looked at Luo Bing who was sleeping in the library, and curled his lips in disdain. Time flies by. I did it, I really did it. In just half a day, Strange had mastered the magic power of the elementary level magician. He looked at his hands in disbelief, and he was now able to use his 10 fingers flexibly. Good job, Strange, you are a genius. Mordo nodded with admiration on his face, applauding strange. Zhao good, then he glanced at Luo Bing who was still taking a nap beside him, snorted, turned his head and stopped paying attention to his play. Snapped. A magic book accidentally landed on Luo Bing's head, knocking him awake. What? Luo Bing woke up with a frown. Beast's instinct didn't warn of danger at all. This book? Seems a bit special. Luo Bing frowned and looked at the magic book in front of him. That thing seemed to have life, constantly jumping on him. This, the Supreme Space Magic Book. It appeared again. Moro on the side stared wide and looked over in disbelief. There are many artifacts in the magician holy place, including flying cloaks and staffs that can emit beams. The most mysterious of them is this Supreme Space Magic Book. The supreme magic recorded on it gives it its own life. It often hides in space, and only those selected by it can read the knowledge above. Why did you choose him? Modu was indignant, looking at Luo Bing with a bit of jealousy. G. Chapter 99. Luo Bing already has a good space ability, and he said that the space ability he inherited was perfectly integrated by him. The Supreme Space Magic Book perceives the active space elements in Luo Bing, and circles around him excitedly. This book has become refined. Luo Bing stared at the book that circled around him with a black face, and reached out and grabbed it instantly. It's not a creative prank to interrupt someone's nap, believe it or not I set you on fire. Luo Bing stared viciously at the magic book in front of him. Just now, he was gradually falling into the state of precognition dreaming again, and he was all disturbed by the book in front of him. Swish! Luo Bing felt the space in his hands fluctuate. The book suddenly disappeared from his hand, and fell on his head like a hat. You broken book, get off my head! Luo Bing was no longer sleepy, and he was also a little curious about this teleportation book. Swish! The Supreme Magic Book disappeared again in an instant, and appeared on the magic bookshelf not far away. When the book was opened, it turned out to be blank sheets of paper. The pages were constantly shaking towards Luo Bing, as if it had its own small temper. It's like sticking out your tongue. Luo Bing has never been so provocative by a book. At the moment, his body also teleported and disappeared in place, landed on the bookshelf and grabbed the naughty book. 793 Swish! 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 Modu stared at a book that was constantly teleporting in the library, and his disdain for Luo Bing completely turned into shock. What a powerful space magic, you don't need to chant a spell at all. How did he do that? Mordo looked at all this in shock, and Strange on the side also looked at it curiously. Boom boom! In the process of you chasing and fleeing, Yishu overturned many bookshelves, and a large number of precious magic books were scattered on the ground. The scene was very similar to the scene of being patronized by thieves. Enough, don't destroy it casually here. Mordo yelled angrily. But soon, his mouth was tightly sealed by the gag skill. Running very fast, let's see how you can run now. Luo Bing grabbed the naughty book tightly, and the twisted black hole around him ripped apart the surrounding space nodes, and this area instantly became a forbidden place for space. The little magic book was still struggling, it gathered a lot of space elements, and instantly got into Luo Bing's magical space. Little darling, you've really thrown yourself into a dead end. Luo Bing laughed, and then his shadow gradually disappeared in the library, and the whole person was completely integrated into the Shinwei space. This is my place. Luo Bing relaxed the magic book, and Shinwei space directly banned all space elements. As the controller of this space, Luo Bing can easily do all this. The humming magic book is constantly struggling, the phantom is constantly compressed and solidified by the space, it is best to lie down in Luo Bing's palm. Let me see how amazing you really are. Luo Bing flipped through the pages of the book, and suddenly there were tadpole-shaped strange words on the blank pages. What language is this? Luo Bing had never seen such a language. It's not like a language on Earth. It's more like the power of law. Luo Bing frowned and looked at the first page. Although he didn't know the words, he could understand it unexpectedly. It was as if everything recorded on that page would be directly imprinted in his mind. With just one page, Luo Bing was suddenly enlightened, and his understanding of space reached a new level. This is simply a book that Luo Bing cannot understand. What the hell is it? Just when Luo Bing wanted to continue flipping through the second page, the strange magic book radiated golden light. Buzz! The magic book burst into golden light, and instantly disappeared from a space node in the divine power. What's so special? He actually broke through my divine power space. This space node, where is this? How come I've never seen it before? 35 No. No, this is not the original space node, it is generated by itself. Luo Bing frowned, and using his latest understanding of space ability, followed the path of the magic book and drilled in. If it was before, he could not, teleport in such a long distance, even with the help of Shinwei space. Tear-like pain constantly came from all over Luo Bing's body. Danger! Danger! Beast instinctively issued a warning. Luo Bing couldn't take care of it anymore, he felt as if he was crossing a long, far distance, his body exuded a gleaming divine light, and the Wuxiao immortal body was running with all his strength. Roar roar roar! Luo Bing finally arrived at a certain space node. Drilled out of the wormhole. He gasped heavily, looking at the world around him curiously. This is Kamui space. No. No. Why isn't this my Shinwei space? Whose Shinwei space is this? Where is this special? Luo Bing frowned and looked at the cubes around. The environment here is exactly the same as when he first obtained the divine power space, but all the space nodes have become unfamiliar. Looking at the space node when he just came in, Luo Bing breathed a sigh of relief. From the current point of view, he doesn't have to worry about being trapped here and can't go back, at least he can leave anytime, anywhere. Although I still have to endure the pain of tearing my body again. What the hell is this place? Luo Bing opened a space node at random and drilled in. He didn't see the book that opened the space node. That thing completely disappeared. Forests, giant trees, green spreading thousands of miles, endless as far as the eye can see. The mountains and rivers in the distance are beautiful, and the insects and birds are singing all around. This environment is particularly unfamiliar to Luo Bing. This is Amazon jungle. Luo Bing frowned and looked at everything in front of him. No. This tree is too big. Where the hell is this? Another mezzanine space. Luo Bing felt everything around him and was very curious about the scene in front of him. It looks like someone is fighting 10 kilometers ahead. Luo Bing, whose spatial perception has fully evolved, instantly discovered a scene not far away. Luo Bing no longer hesitated, his body disappeared in place in an instant, ready to grab a local native to find out where it was. Roar! Huge amounts of red chakra roared to shred the surrounding magic mirror ice crystals. Shui Wuiba was thrown far away. The eyes of the boy in the khaki sportswear exuded scarlet light, huge amounts of chakra energy spread around him, and the little friend beside him fell unconscious on the ground. Naruto! Suzuki, the girl with pink hair shouted and ran over. On the other side, Hatake Wuyukai's strength exploded, and he became passive and active. He stubbornly suppressed the ghost man and then kicked him out. What am I, Naruto? This is the world of the 7th Naruto boss. Luo Bing was startled and froze in place. Who are you? Stay away from those 3 children. Kakashi panted heavily, without chasing after him, looking cautiously at the young ninja who suddenly appeared in front of him. He looks so weird. Chapter 100. Luo Bing is now dazed. He knew that his powers came from all realms. But I never thought that I would come here by coincidence. The Japanese they speak, is this Japan? What does the earth in this interface look like? Luo Bing thought to himself. He once obtained the junk Japanese proficiency ability, and Korean proficiency ability, before he didn't consider developing his own new Oriental beauty salon group. To be a translator was his ideal at that time. Oh, FK, I actually came here, what the hell is that book? Luo Bing looked at the scene in front of him speechlessly, this feeling was even worse than when he went to hell. Why don't you talk, you are a wandering ninja. A samurai? Where's your forehead guard? The uncle with silver hair and a 3-go jade eye shouted towards Luo Bing. The reason Luo Bing thinks this is the world of Naruto bosses. It is because of this single writing wheel eye. No one is more familiar with this stuff than him. Are you Naruto boss's basic friend? Luo Bing frowned and asked uncertainly. Naruto boss? Friend. Kakashi's eyes instantly turned into a pair of dead fish eyes, looking at the guy in front of him inexplicably. Sounds like he knows Naruto? But Naruto is the 9-tailed Manzuli hidden in the village. This is the first time he has been out of the village to perform a mission. How could he know such a strange person? Could it be, he is a spy from another ninja village? Not right either. No one would reveal their identity so stupidly. Who are you? Where do you come from? Kakashi secretly shook the kunao in his handshake, stabilized his mind, and asked with a frown. My name is Luo Bing, I come from, you can't understand it. Anyway, it's far, far away. Let me ask you, where is this place in Japan? Luo Bing asked back. Weird guy, this is the country of waves, as for the Japan you mentioned. I have never heard of it, Kakashi replied with a frown. While the two of you were asking and answering, a large group of men and horses ran over from across the bridge, holding swords in their hands and looking fierce. Useless waste, even a ninja and 3 little devils can't solve it, kill them all and blow up this bridge. Kato strolled over surrounded by everyone, and squinted at Zabuzan, who was covered in injuries. Bai, snorted coldly. Please help take care of those children. Kakashi looked at Luo Bing, and then looked at Zaifo with a gloomy face not far away. Ugly Mao Shen Chidori. Thousands of birds chirped, and a bright thunder light appeared on Kakashi's right hand. He looked at the wandering ninja in front of him and rushed over instantly. A group of Joker jumping beams were directly pierced by Chidori in the chest, screaming and dying. This. Kato looked at Kakashi who was rushing over, and felt a little flustered in his heart, and quickly instructed his subordinates constantly to attack. Don't cut! Why are you still standing there? Stop him! Cardo yelled. It's a pity that Zabuzan in the distance didn't pay attention to him at all. He took a close look at Luo Bing. Just now, Kakashi turned his back to this direction, but he saw the strange appearance of the other party, and quickly disappeared in place with Bai. Kakashi resolved the battle with utter destructiveness. Naruto had been in a coma and had not woken up yet, but Sasuke, who was beside him, slowly opened his eyes. The gleaming jade riding wheel in his eyes flashed away. But it was captured better than Luo Bing. Luo Bing walked over curiously, judging from his age, it seems that this is a good friend of the 7th generation boss. Luo Bing looked at the golden-haired boy who was sleeping in the past. The energy that this guy just burst out was not low, he was indeed the 7th Hokage. But not what he expected. It seems that the 7 generations of this era have not yet reached the level of a big brother, and even his good friends are only in a state of jade. Big brother, so handsome. Sakura's eyes flashed with love. The mind of a little girl in this grade is incredible. Totally the age of an idiot. He looks so handsome that he can't walk, let alone Luo Bing. I have medicine here to heal my injury, Luo Bing said, throwing out 2 small red bottles. Who are you? Sasuke looked at the man in front of him vigilantly. From the aura, he felt that this man was very strong. Thank you big brother. Xiao Ying took the small red bottle, unscrewed the bottle cap, and poured it into Naruto's mouth while passing it to Sasuke with the other hand. Don't hurt. Sasuke. Naruto rubbed his eyes in confusion and slowly woke up, the wounds on his body constantly healed. Seeking flowers. Seeing his friend wake up, Sasuke nodded gratefully to Luo Bing, and drank the potion in his hand. Soon, the wound on his body that was pierced into quill by thousands of books gradually healed. It's a magical world, I'm going to stay here for 2 days. Luo Bing looked at Kakashi who had finished the battle in the distance. The power of the world that the other party used just now made him very curious. Cardo was stabbed in the heart by Chidori and lay on the ground unwillingly. Kakashi is obviously not a soft-hearted person, and he has not let go of this behind-the-scenes mastermind. Luo Bing. Right. We are ninjas from Konoha village, the land of fire. The potion you just took out is amazing. You are a medical ninja? Why do you know Naruto's name? Kakashi walked away came and asked. He was just looking at Luo Bing's actions while he was fighting. Although it was confirmed that the young man did not seem to be malicious, he was still worried. I'm not a ninja, I'm just a ordinary doctor. As for the name. Luo Bing pointed to Sakura. This girl just called out Sakura, who was pointed at it, blushed instantly and lowered her head shyly. Strange guy. Kakashi covered his wheel eye with his forehead guard, he obviously wouldn't easily believe Luo Bing's nonsense. I'm actually a traveling doctor, and I like to travel around various countries and look for special medicinal herbs at the same time. Can I visit Konoha village? Luo Bing smiled, harmless to humans and animals. Kakashi hesitation, then nodded. He is very confident in Konoha's defensive power, even if this guy has some ulterior secrets, he will never cause any trouble. Kakashi-sensei, run away with that girl, Sakura said, trying to attract Luo Bing's attention. So be it. Kakashi took out the ration pill from the ninja bag and stuffed it into his mouth, quickly recovering his chakra. Naruto looked at Luo Bing curiously, the 6 beards on his face were very funny. Luo Bing nodded and smiled kindly. The Naruto boss is a little frustrated. Not what he imagined. The clothes are dirty and the hairstyle is also dirty. If you change his hairstyle yourself, it should look much better.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.